This is the GJRB Online Network.
Looking for some meatless options into your weekly routine? Hardee's is proud to introduce the original Beyond Thick Burger and Beyond Sausage Biscuit. Both patties are 100% plant-based, but are just as savory as the real deal. Now we know what you're thinking. How could a burger or breakfast sausage made entirely from plants be that satisfying? Guess the best way to find out is to taste for yourself. The original Beyond Thick Burger and Beyond Sausage Biscuit, now at Hardee's.
Hardee's Beyond Meat products are not vegan. The products are cooked on the same surface as meat.
Around here, life is a continuous circle. We have friend circles, business circles,
great work,
and occasionally circles under our eyes. At our best, we have a circle of caring people around us. That's the power of Mercy One, a healthcare support network 20,000 strong, personalizing your care by keeping you at the center of everything we do. Mercy One, your best life, our one purpose.
Into the streets, we're coming out. We never sleep, never get tired. Through urban fields and suburban life. Turn the crowd up now, we'll never back down. Shoot down the skyline, watch it on prime time. Turn up the love now, listen up now. Turn up the love. Who's gonna save the world tonight? Who's gonna bring it back to life? We're gonna make it, you and I. We're gonna save the world tonight. We're far from home, it's for the better. What we dream, it's all that matters. We're on our way, united. Turn the crowd up now, we'll never back down. Shoot down the skyline, watch it on prime time. Turn up the love now, listen up now. Turn up the love. Who's gonna save the world tonight? Who's gonna bring it back to life? We're gonna make it, you and I. We're gonna save the world tonight. Who's gonna save? Who's gonna bring? We're gonna make it, you and I. Who's gonna save? Who's gonna bring? We're gonna save the world tonight.
We go hide away in daylight. We go undercover, wait up the sun. Got a secret side in plain sight. Where the streets are empty, that's where we run. Everyday people do everyday things, but I can't be one of them. I know
Hey, what's good, everybody? Here, Ed Delgado from the Caramel Conservative. I am coming at you here live once again. It is a Tuesday night. Yeah, I know. I got so much to go over. I got so much to talk about. Guys, let me know if you're hearing me and you're hearing me clear. I need to know because I'm working with some new stuff here. So any feedback you guys have is going to be greatly, greatly appreciated. But man, I tell you what, I take a week off once again and things go south. I take a vacation. First time in 5 years, I've taken a 4-day vacation and all of a sudden the world goes to hell. But you know what? We're going to talk about this here tonight. We got a lot to talk about. What is the main thing we're going to be talking about? COVID-19, the coronavirus. I want to get your guys' input. So, guys, we got Brother Mike Myers already in the show. We got Brother Joe Lozano, the Repo Man himself, in the show, in the chat room right now. So, guys, make sure you guys are sharing this out. Get people on board here because I want to hear what everybody has to say because you know what? As it stands right now, we need to be in this together. So incredibly important. So, guys, let's get this bad boy kicked off right now. Welcome once again here to the Caramel Conservative Podcast. I am your host, Ed Delgado, the Caramel Conservative himself, and I'm coming at you here live right out of the heart of central Wisconsin. And man, do we got a lot of stuff on deck here tonight. So much, and I just don't know what to do. Well, I do and I don't, but that's a story for another day. Guys, thank you guys here for joining in tonight. We got Brother John from OBFSU joining us here tonight. Man. What's going on, Brother John? How's the world treating you? How are they down there in Texas? They close the bars yet? Anything crazy? Anything ridiculous? To me, this whole thing is completely absurd. On one hand, I understand a lot of it. On another, we're going to get into it here tonight. Tonight, I am running with absolutely no notes. On my phone, I actually have like 60 tabs open. It's ridiculous how much stuff I've got going on here. And it's because literally everything surrounding the COVID-19, the coronavirus, the Wuhan virus, everything has been so fluid. Everything has been changing on an almost hour-to-hour basis. So, with that being said, obviously that's going to be the main theme of tonight's show. And the live chat room, I want to hear everything that everybody has to say. Everything. And if you guys want to feel free to give me a call, we got the live call-in number that is actually up and running. Thank you, Brother Mike, for helping me out with that. I'll throw that telephone number out there one more time. It's a brand new telephone number. We got it actually hooked up. And, man, this is ridiculous. John mentioned here that stuff's closed everywhere in the hospitality industry. Only takeout in restaurants in their area. So that means bars, restaurants, those are closed except for the areas you can take out or drive through. And I'm sure there's a lot of other things, hotel industries, theme parks, other stuff like that. And that seems to be a common theme in a lot of states. So let's go back here a little bit. Let's go back to this whole origin of the coronavirus. And don't mind me because, like I said, I'm not working with any notes tonight, unfortunately. And I'm going to be flipping through a bunch of tabs. Normally, I tend to go over, stories and stuff, but I'm not really going to be doing that here tonight. We're just, like I said, this is going to be a free-flow conversation. I want to hear what everybody here has to say, because this is going to be, I firmly believe that the coronavirus and what governments are doing on the state and federal level is going to have such a long-lasting impact that our country is not going to be the same ever again. Not a one. Joining in the chat room here, you got Sister Janelle Clark. How are you, Janelle? How are you and the family doing? So if you go back, I'm just dropping stuff here. And of course, the mic is going to hear everything. Brother Gary, how are you, sir? Good to have you on board tonight. So, it's almost hard to track exactly when this COVID-19 actually started. And if you go back, some sources say it was December, some sources say November. It's really hard to kind of pinpoint because you really can't trust the Chinese government. They're not going to be telling you too much on who released it, what it was. One of the working theories on how this came about was that it was a mutated strain that crossed over from a bat in a meat market. And if you've seen any of the videos or anything on the Chinese meat market, some of the stuff there was, what was it? Live animals, caged up, just ready to be processed and everything else. Another theory, another working theory that some people have is that there's a belief that this was actually part of a biological weapons program because there is a biochemical plant there in the city of Wuhan that actually does a lot of work for the Chinese government and research as it relates to their biological weapons program. Now, how much of that is conspiracy, how much of that is accurate, I don't know. But at this particular point, you kind of have to trust the news sources to a certain extent, but you also got to be very weary of them as well, because a lot of what we're seeing here is the panic is driven by these very news sources, the way that they're reporting it, the way that they're talking about this. It is causing people to get whipped up into a frenzy. I mean, I am literally watching people fight over toilet paper. I have people, literally hoarding toilet paper. I mean, how absurd is that? What exactly is this toilet paper going to do for you? At this particular point in time, I would venture to say that toilet paper might be one of the most valuable commodities in America. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think that scares the hell out of me, because if you guys remember when Venezuela started to fall, that was one of the very first things that was hoarded up. Because you remember, they couldn't get toilet paper. Now, one of the things that I'm comforted by is the very fact that our supply chains at this particular point are still strong. The truckers are out there. They're doing their thing. They're working day and night. The problem is that a lot of the operations, warehouses and manufacturing here in the United States, they're having problems keeping up with the demand. Because a lot of the production and everything that they're being forced to do at this particular point, March is generally not a very high turnover month for retail or hospitality industries. The type of numbers that they're posting over the last few days is the type of numbers that you would see in the summer months. So you have to kind of factor that in when you start seeing shelves that are empty and things like that. A lot of what you have here is panic-driven buying. And this panic-driven buying, and again, I'll go right back to the mainstream media. For the constant 24/7, in your face, and what's driving people to go out and buying more and more and more is this idea that they just don't have enough. Now, they don't have enough because, number one, they don't know what exactly is enough. And I think what makes that dangerous is that those individuals that don't know what is enough, they'll never know. And then they're going to waste their resources on the wrong products. It shouldn't be toilet paper you should be stocking up on. It's water and Spam. And I know a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of folks over the past couple of days, and nobody wants to talk about eating Spam. But I tell you what, Spam is your friend. Oh, Spam is your friend. The other thing that really kind of shakes me about this, if you guys are familiar with the concept of social proof. Social proof is this idea that, well, if everybody's doing it, then maybe I should do it because I don't want to be left out. I don't want to not be one of the cool kids. The problem here is that it's kind of like that whole phrase. I don't know if you guys remember. It's, well, if all your friends were going to jump off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge? Of course, your answer is going to be, well, no. Remember what parents would ask you that? But in all likelihood, you probably would. Most people would. And that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing everybody panic buying, and then all of a sudden, you're going to start thinking to yourself, my God, maybe I need to jump onto this. because I don't want to miss out. When are they going to have everything, that I'm going to need? Basic household supplies, cleaning. When the media told me that I need to be cleaning and scrubbing down and all that other good stuff. God, I love that cough button. It's actually that's my friend. Let's go into the chat room here because I'm missing a lot of good stuff already. This is good. It's real good. So Brother John mentioned in here that with debt at $23 trillion already, who knows where we'll go in printing money to rescue this. And I'm glad you brought that up because the Fed just recently lowered interest rates, especially on short-term loans, to 0%. And of course, not everybody's going to qualify for 0% when it comes to refining their house and stuff like that. By the way, if you can refi your house now, this is the best time to do it. Even if you don't get the 0%, 2.5, 3 point, that's nothing to sneeze at. Yes, the ball in the background is my dog. She is going crazy. Well, anyway, but they're doing all these dumps of quantitative easing. Now, this is the very thing that we were very critical of when Obama was doing it. And for those of you that aren't too familiar with what quantitative easing is, let me oversimplify it. It is essentially printing money just because they can to try to stabilize an economy. But when you print money to that extent, all you're doing is devaluing your currency. Now, they're already talking about pumping $800 billion into this on top of what they've already done. So when we come out of the other side, and we will come out of this, I have no doubt in my mind about that at all. But when we come out of this, are we all going to be millionaires? And the worst part about it is, you take a look at some of these third world shithole countries, and what you find is they're millionaires, but what we consider a $5 bill to them is $1 million of whatever their currency may be. Gary mentioned here, listen to the second hour of the Saturday Extra. I have a video you can watch about Bill Gates and the COVID-19 is a drill, and there's a second wave. Well, and I don't know if I necessarily buy into some of that, but I'm not going to dismiss it completely either. I think it's interesting, though, when you mentioned that there's going to be a second wave. I think there certainly will be a second wave, especially people that are not taking the precautions that they need to be taking. But it's definitely going to get worse before it gets better. No doubt about that. Janelle mentioned here, I have no idea how it's affecting to me, other than my work ethic just went up 1,000,000%. You know what? And I'm glad you said that, Janelle, because that's something that I think really needs to be impressed upon. Not just, you should definitely get credit for that. No doubt about that. But I think that should be an example for other people. Your work ethic, whether it be for work, whether it be at home, getting your own stuff together, learning things while you can. By all means, jump into it. Gary mentioned in here, gave the YouTube video. Unfortunately, it's not showing. He also mentioned he saw posting on Facebook about guys around the table playing poker with toilet paper. Oh, yeah. And yeah, Joe, you're right. Mismatched socks. You ever see that thing where there's a bunch of socks talking together and they're like, you know what, guys, don't separate from each other. You get lost, you might become toilet paper. Oh, man. Imagine that they don't want the truth out. And you know what? And we're going to talk about that because I think that's an interesting thing. And we're going to talk about prepping because we got a lot of comments here about being a prepper and things like that. And then what did we got here? Janelle mentioned that she tried to purchase ground beef and refused to pay $4.99 a pound. Spam or maybe tuna fish it is. Wow, $4.99 a pound. That is some price gouging action going on there. But I think, beef has gone up in price. So, I'm not going to be completely dismissive of that price, but that's definitely not something you want to be buying there. Let's see here. Yeah, Joe said here, I saw Ed's video the other day, and he stocked up on Christmas lights. I do have Christmas lights up. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little lazy that way. Gary mentioned here, I'm ticked off because there's no March Madness, no baseball, and I'll bet there'll be no World Series. All right. let's break this down because I think there's a lot of different ways we can go with it. And I think it'd be very easy to get distracted in several different ways, just simply because there's so much to cover. But the first thing I want to talk about here is just simply the fact that we got all these businesses closing down. Here in Wisconsin, as of 5 o'clock this evening, all bars and restaurants have been ordered to close. The only thing that anybody who serves food or anything can do is either drive-through or delivery. That's it. And the economic impact of this is going to be absolutely devastating. Now, one of the things that I need to start off here first with, Bob, what's going on here? How you doing tonight? One of the first things I want to start with is the coronavirus should be taken seriously. It should be taken seriously to the extent that, you know what, this is a novel virus. Novel being something that's new, something that we don't have a vaccine for, something that can fill what they call a 72-hour cycle, where they're looking at the doubling of infected individuals over a certain period of time. I saw some numbers extrapolated earlier today, and if at the rate of, say, doubling every 10 days, you could infect every person in America by September. Pretty easy, and also very scary. Now, that being the case, and it's almost sad and disturbing and disgusting that it has to be said at this particular point, but the thing that, you know, that the CDC and everybody else in any type of authority here is saying is that wash your hands. Keep yourself clean. Make sure that, you know, if you're sick, stay home. You know, cough in your elbow, not in your hand. You know, don't go around picking your face and your nose and everything else. These are all the basic things we should have been doing from the get-go. But all of a sudden, this is going to be the cure-all. Well, not necessarily the cure-all, but you know what I mean, the preventative measure. Now, understanding the CDC and other private firms are actually working on a vaccine here for this particular virus. And I think that's probably the upshoot to the virus itself, is that because it is a strain of the coronavirus itself, and there have been 7 different strains, this being the 7th, they have a baseline genome to work with. It's just because, again, it's a novel virus, something that's new, they have to work from that baseline and try to find a way to vaccinate that. So that's what we need to look at. And like I said, we have to take that serious. But at the same time, is there a necessity? Is there a need to essentially, at this particular point, put America under martial law? Because that's kind of essentially where we're at. We're in a soft form or a setup to martial law. And I'm not saying this to be bombastic. I'm not saying this to be over the top. I'm not saying this to try to get under anybody's skin or anything else. But what other steps are there? I mean, if you take a look at this, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are looking to establish mass units around the country, especially in places with high infection rates. The National Guards are being called out to try to help out in hospitals and other stuff like that. And I certainly do see a need for that. But at the same point, if you're being, what do they call it, hunker down, stay in place orders, you're not allowed to run your business. What else do you call this? You even had, who was it? Somebody was mentioning to the effect that government shouldn't start nationalizing industries. Now, if this isn't a fast track to socialism, I don't know what is. And doing so under the guise of public security is what scares the hell out of me. And I'll say something that I think that's extremely unpopular at this particular point, but I think it needs to be driven home again and again and again. And if an individual were to disagree with me on that, I would welcome you to tell me your thoughts on that, because I think what Franklin said during the writing of the Constitution was, I think, absolutely correct. Those that would trade freedom for security deserve neither. At this particular point, and you just look over what happened over just 1 week. 1 week. we have acquiesced so many rights. The right to assemble, the right to our, to go to church, your freedom of religion. We in some places we're on the verge of losing the Second Amendment. Because there are places that are saying, we're not going to do gun sales. I was just talking with Bumpa from the Wicked Pissa Show, Bumpa, Byron, and Patty Cakes last night. And apparently they got a 2-week hold on any gun registrations, any gun licensing. And again, for me, this is, when it comes to the Second Amendment, it's like, what part of shall not be infringed do you not understand? You see what I'm saying? So we've given up so much of this, and once you lose something, you don't just get it back. Huber mentioned on here, you're absolutely right. I think your opinion has kind of turned in the last couple of days. I just tried calling you and discussing this with you, but it says all representatives are busy now. So I don't know what the number is that you gave me. All right, let's try that again. Oh, boy. And Joe just sent me something, too. This is a good one here. If you stocked up on supplies and can't fight, just know you bought all that shit for me. I'll put the number out here in a minute there, Bob, but this is a great point. This is a great point. Actually, I'm going to throw this number up here real quick. 234-6350. See how to make sure I had that right. While we're waiting for this here, I want to tell a quick story here before we get into what Bob's going to say and the prepper portion of it. So I went on a 4-day vacation. The family and I, we went to Wisconsin Dells. We caught a nice little deal. We had this planned out for quite some time. And the little guy absolutely loved it. Water park, good times. And it just seemed like I came back and the world just went upside down. As a matter of fact, the world went upside down the second day we were there on Friday. And it was absolutely, it was comical at first because you're seeing all these people buying toilet paper. So we come back into town here on Sunday and we have to go to Walmart. Well, I like buying in bulk. I think buying in bulk makes sense, and I think that's the smartest thing anybody can do from an economic standpoint. One, it allows you to be prepared for a number of things. I haven't lived through a number of natural disasters and everything, and being somewhat of a quasi-prepper myself, I believe that you should have enough to withstand a couple weeks of having to be locked in. Because, you never know. What if, the power grid goes down? What if there's a major snowstorm and you can't get out of your house for a couple days? You want to have enough food and supplies to make sure everybody's good to go. And I decided, okay, we got to go to Walmart. We got to pick up a few things. And that's really all it was. It was just normal every week shopping. So we go to Walmart and I just needed to see. And I just needed to see what was going on at the toilet paper and paper section. So I go there. Okay. I go there, and it's completely wiped out. I mean, disgusting. And then what's worse, and give me 1 second here. What's worse is that you go to the frozen foods, any of the pre-prepared foods, any of the microwave dinners, anything like that, gone. I mean, literally ghosted. However, when you go into the part of the store where there's ingredients, like various ingredients that you actually have to put together to make a meal, there was plenty of that. And I was rather surprised by that just because, well, I guess I shouldn't really be surprised because when you think about it, people as a whole, they are lazy. So what did they end up doing? They ended up buying up all this instant shit and none of the stuff that they actually had to put an effort in to make a meal. And I think what is interesting about that is most of these people don't even have the means to preserve this stuff, much less protect it, like what Joe was saying through that meme there. So let's get to the phone line here. It looks like we got brother Bob Huber. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? Nothing much, man. And by the way, I like the new phone. I feel like I'm talking to God. There's an echo and everything.
How bad is the echo?
Not horrible, but like after I talk, I can hear the beginning of my sentence.
All right.
So when you talk, there's an echo, and when I talk, there's a little like reverb.
All right. I'm manipulating some of the stuff that I got over here, so everything should be coming across better at this particular point.
Yeah, actually it is.
Okay.
But whatever you did.
Oh. See, every now and again I can get something right.
Well, one of us has to figure out not to be in special ed, and it's probably you.
Oh, I can't even begin to tell you how many jokes I used to get about the whole special ed thing. It's like, your name is Ed. I'm like, thanks, asshole.
Yeah, thanks for that obvious joke. It's like having the name Cuber and being called Cuber. It's horrible.
Oh, right. It's
that
like
was my nickname through high school.
It's like, oh, wow, you spent a lot of time coming up with that one. Good on you. Good on you. I bet your mother's so proud of you.
Like, you're that creative. Took you 2 seconds.
A bunch of damn test tube babies. So what's going on, man? Give me some thoughts on what's going on. What are you feeling? What are you seeing?
Well, I'm feeling a lot because what was it? Sunday or Saturday? You put up a Facebook post and you said, pandemic, and then it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek sarcasm deal.
Yes.
So I'm like, wow, this dude kind of isn't taking this seriously. But I think as the numbers are, I was ready to go full debate with you, but because the numbers are now rising, not just here in the United States, but over in Italy, and now I think Germany has a case, and other countries, I think people are starting to take this more seriously and less asshole-ish, if that's the right term to use.
All right. Let me ask you this. I'm going to stick to this one point. I still stand by that. Pandemic, I think it's an extreme overreaction. I think that taking certain precautions makes sense, about being clean and everything else. We don't want this to spread. But to lock down nations, to literally destroy an economy, because that's what's happening here, it makes absolutely no sense. Now, that is not to say that not to take it serious. I'm saying the overreaction is such that we'll never be the same as a country ever again. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing. It's not 9/11, okay? That changed the country. This, I don't think will change the country, like to a massive degree, but it will make people more aware of illness, and maybe there'll be less slovenly people out there, and they'll think about what's on the doorknob before they touch it, or they will bring around hand sanitizer, because there are a lot of people out there that do not wash their hands. I cough, so I'm wonderful.
No worries. As long as you don't got no Wuhan virus there. I got to disagree with you. I think this will be worse than 9/11. See, let's go back to 2001. See, nobody could have predicted that. Well, yes, you could have. There were early warnings, but that particular day, nobody could have predicted that. Obviously, the stock market took one hell of a hit during that particular point. And we went into recession shortly thereafter. We got out of it. And then go to 2008, 2009. That was just, the housing bubble just burst. I mean, they were giving out money to pretty much anybody. If you had a pulse, and I mean barely a pulse, they would give you a home, and then you would get a shit ton of credit cards. And because what do you do for a living? Well, I manufacture, widgets for McDonald's, and I make minimum wage. Okay, you qualify for a $300,000 home. So people were overextending themselves, so they didn't have a pot to piss in. So what they ended up doing was they ended up spending everything on credit cards. Now, Obviously, we saw what happened in 2008, 2009. Now, if you take a look at that, take a look at the people that committed suicide. Take a look at all the levels of anxiety, like Gary's mentioned here. But that changed the country, especially in how lending and everything happened at that particular point. Now, look at what's happening here between people being ordered to stay in their homes, between businesses being told not to do things. And you have to realize that a lot of these small businesses, and we talked about this on Facebook, they operate on small margins. Everybody sees the cash going across the bar, but nobody sees the money that's paid to the vendors and the overhead and everything else.
When you said that on Facebook, I totally agreed with you. And then after I agreed with you, I sat and I thought about it, right? And when you said it made a lot of sense. But then the other side of me said, well, if this is the time for things to fail, like may the strongest survive, let it kind of be the time. And, there's nothing to be ashamed of if you're good. I mean, it's horrible when your business goes under, but, I mean, at least you had it and at least you gave it a whirl and you just couldn't. Even to this day, there's going to be things that close down and won't be able to reopen because of this horrible, horrible thing that's happened.
Well, let me ask you this, okay? And I'll take your Darwinian approach. Your Insalanur apocalypse approach of that's an X-Men reference, guys. Of survival of the fittest.
That's why I'm laughing.
Let's take a look at that. No, seriously, let's take a look at that. If we're looking at survival of the fittest, who do you think are going to be the first to go?
Like you said, the small business.
Are you sure about that?
Well, no. Like that's. I don't think that stuff can totally be predicted to the letter, Ed. But I mean, it's gonna be like the top two, right? Small business, and then it's gonna bleed into the middle class maybe a little bit.
I think. But the small business is the middle class. The small businesses are the majority of businesses in America. I mean, take a look when you go down, drive down your nearest big town near you. Not Chicago, but whenever you go out.
No, yeah.
Don't pay attention to your BW3s. Don't pay attention to your Chick-fil-A's. Pay attention to your, to the mom and pop stores. Pay attention to the laundromat. Pay attention to, the 5 and dime store. Not the Dollar Tree, but the 5 and dime store. And that's most of it.
And maybe that's my line of thinking, because even though I'm from a small little town in the state of Illinois, my town is no longer the 5 and dime there is no more mom and pop store.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember what you're saying, and by the way, it was better that way in my personal opinion.
Sure.
But everything now is such a corporation. Like you want wings, you gotta go to B-Dubs. But before you would go to like Andrew's Wingstop over to whatever. So it amazes me that that these 5 and dime stores are still in business at this very day. And if they get through something like this, more power to them. But I don't think they'll survive.
But we have to take a look at this, but here's the thing, and here's where I don't think you're quite grasping at that just yet. We have to take this on a personal level, and if we're going to go full Darwinian here, the first people that are going to go are the sick, the infirmed, and the handicapped. Italy gives us the example because they're already taking triage measures. If you're over 80, they are not going to treat you if you have the coronavirus. They're going to only treat the individuals that have the strongest probability of surviving, the young, the healthy.
Okay, see, I understand that more. Okay, I think that is a better point that you're trying to get through.
Well, and it kind of hits a little more into home, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, not for the handicap thing, because I've always made the joke, and people always get offended that I use the same history class. Hitler had the right idea because he got rid of the brown-haired handicapped people first, and people would look at me like I was like a neo-Nazi.
That's fucked up, man. Well, see, to me, this is concerning because, I have a daughter who's autistic. Is she not going to be worthy if she happens to contract this? I mean, they're estimating that 1 in 5 people in America are going to get this. That's what models are saying right now.
But then you have to figure in her age. I mean, yes, she has autism, but will they be like, okay, she can function, so let's do our best here. And I think a person like me that has trouble maneuvering and whatnot, I'm going to be the first one, to be honest with you. Not your daughter, but it's like there's different levels of handicap.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, who would you rather spend time on? The person with functioning limbs or the guy that has limited function in his limbs?
But
I'm done, man.
But the thing is, though, is
Put a
that
tag on my toe.
see, the thing is, it doesn't have to be that way. That's the problem. It does not have to be that way. A lot of these bars. Okay, here, let me give you an example. California did this. Wisconsin was doing this. I think Florida has done it, and several other places have done it. They limited people to go to bars and restaurants to 50 people, no more than 50 people. And then let's say if your bar only had 30 people was the capacity, you could only have 50% of that. So whatever that was. And I thought that was a good medium. You got the bars to keep getting business, although not as much as they should, but it didn't close them down altogether. And then what was it? It was the bars, and then of course they decided to shut everything down. Now again, you got to remember how many of these people are going to be now put out of work between the wait staff, the bartenders, anybody, all the cooks that are associated with that. And I hate to make a gender argument out of this, but if you take a look at most of your bartenders outside of the high-end area, most of your bartenders, and I live in a very small town, compared to my town and your town, your big city compared to my town. Your big city.
You might actually have those mom
in rural communities, and this is where a lot of that stuff comes in. You know what I mean?
See, and another thing, and you're the perfect person to talk to this about. Like, all right, after the coronavirus is over, which they're predicting it's going to be quite a while now. I hear maybe it could be up to July, early August.
I've heard the same thing. Yes.
Like that. And can you imagine the Democrat? Yeah, the Democrat make a political thing out of this. If the small businesses start to fail, you got to bail them out. Just like I'm tired of people getting bailed out.
Well, and it's interesting because,
and that could be a political standing for an election year. I don't like that.
No, and I agree with you 100% on that because you got the airlines that are looking for a bailout. In a lot of ways, I can see a necessity for that because, unfortunately, right, wrong, or indifferent, there are certain businesses that are too big to fail. We can't have the airlines, all go under. You know what I mean? So to a certain extent, I get that. But again, that's going to cost the people. Going back to John's point, we're already, what did you say it was, John, around $25 trillion? What's it going to be when this is all said and done? But you also got the cruise lines that want to bail out. Now you got Las Vegas casinos that want to bail out. $23 trillion. That's where we're at. But even the Las Vegas casinos are wanting a bailout. And the thing that's kind of really appalling when it comes to the Las Vegas casinos, and I'm not going to restrict that just to the Las Vegas casinos because here in Wisconsin, we have a lot of Indian tribes and they're allowed to operate their casinos. I'm sure they're going to want a cut of that as well, too. But these casinos over the last 10 years have made record profit. And I don't begrudge them of that. I think that's great. However, if you're making record profit, you should have more than enough money to sustain yourself through a crisis of any sort for at least, I'd say, 9 to 12 months. That's how I would operate. But, what do I know? I don't run a casino either.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, yeah, Amtrak. Gary mentioned they forgot Amtrak wasn't mentioned. Trains are closing down in place. We're not hearing about them. And then John mentioned some major U.S. airlines have borrowed more to keep afloat. One just borrowed $2 billion.
And I even hate to say this. I wouldn't care if all the train things went out of business. Trains are completely, same thing with subways. They're completely like a filth thing. Like it's, you can probably go sit on a train and catch something like the coronavirus.
Yeah, but the thing with some of the trains, you realize how much stuff is transported via train.
Well, I mean for food and supply, that's fine.
Well, you're talking commercial.
Yeah.
Right.
Even those Greyhound buses. Listen, these are the
you ain't riding no Greyhound.
Well, I mean, so I'm sitting here thinking about this logically, and I was having trouble explaining it over a computer to you, whatever it is.
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, I'm not totally for the closing of small businesses, but trains, bus stations, even some airlines at this point should just, those are the things that you fail.
Mm-hmm.
Cruises. Come on, it's 2020. How is a cruise fun?
You would be surprised. I know
they have them and they're popular, but Carnival Cruise, somebody's always going overboard.
Well, between going overboard and somebody's always contracting something. I mean, for me, a cruise is not my idea of a vacation, but some people absolutely love them. Obviously, they're popular. Otherwise, they wouldn't still continue to make these cruise lines. But I think what's fascinating about the cruise industry in particular, take a look at the flag that they fly. The flags that they fly will oftentimes be where their so-called home port is, and usually that home port is for some place that's overseas with a more friendly tax structure for them. So that should tell you something. Janelle mentioned on here, anyone pushing stock, it may not look pretty now, but could be worth it in the long run. And honestly, for those individuals that have cash on hand, now is definitely the time to be buying certain stocks, especially when you take a look at, long-term investing and things like that. So, I mean, if you got cash in hand, you might want to really look at some of these industries.
Yeah. And here's another thing that grinds my gears. I know I'm going all over the place, but I had a lot to say.
No, that's fine. That's fine, because we said, this is going to be everywhere.
I'm very aggravated.
Yeah.
At things like the Ultimate Fighting Championship and the WWE, and everybody knows I'm a big fan of that stuff.
Right.
But the president of the UFC said, "Oh, we're not going to close down. We're going to keep the fights going until we're made to close down."
Sure.
So this whole week, in every press conference he had, he said how he just got off the phone with the president because he's a hardcore, conservative like we are.
Well, let's take a look at Dana White, though. Dana White, president of the UFC, and Donald Trump. Those two are personal friends. And one of the things that makes their friendship so solid is not the politics. It's that when UFC was starting, nobody was willing to invest in UFC. Donald Trump invested in UFC. Donald Trump believed in UFC. Donald Trump helped, with the funding to get the organization to go from just the brawling. Because if you remember, you'd see a 110-pound guy whoop some 400-pound man's ass. Just completely mismatched into into the true art that MMA is. So that's kind of, and I think it's important to delineate, that, he's just doing it because they're buddies. No, they're buddies for a reason, and Dana White certainly has his allegiances to Trump because he believed in what he was doing. But go on with the UFC though, please.
I get it. But like what I mean is if you were the president of the United States,
yes.
I'm giving you that honor.
Sweet.
I don't think I would be able to get you on the phone. Okay, to say, hey man, what's really going on?
Sure.
I would have to, how the hell this guy have a direct line to,
I think I have the answer for you.
Office.
I think I have the answer
Okay.
to you. I think they have their friendship, number one. Number two, the UFC is a major player in just sports in general. I would venture to say UFC does better than Major League Baseball. It definitely does better than hockey, National Hockey League.
Oh, no doubt about it.
But and it's interesting. You bring up sports, and I know that you are a huge sports buff. And
big time. Go on, sorry. And then I'll
no, that's cool.
On that.
But one of the things that I think that's important to note here is while they're canceling MLB, while they're canceling, NFL and everything else under the sun, what's going to take a huge rise in popularity? Esports.
What?
Esports.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right because even I would turn on some highlights during the day if there was something on like the night before. But no, since I know everything's canceled.
I mean, just take a look at the popularity of some of these YouTubers out there that they go ahead and do all their gaming videos and stuff like that. You got individuals like PewDiePie, Dan TDM, Markiplier. These guys make millions of dollars just on YouTube revenue alone. I mean, this is a whole different industry that is not dependent upon anybody, doing anything outside. It's value creation through entertainment, And I think what is interesting about that is that if you have that ability to do these things, then you can inspire others to do that. But I think killing these other industries out there's again, this is a bigger problem. Do we need to kill off an entire economy? Because if you look at just Major League Professional Sports, we'll take esports out of this completely.
Didn't the president say that, hey man, well, it's going to take a hit, at least for a little while.
Sure.
The economy is going to, I thought, I don't know who said it or where I heard it from, but I know I heard it somewhere. Didn't he say this? We would go into a recession. He's not even second guessing we would.
Well, what he said was it's possible. Because, again, he can't, like anyone else, nobody can forecast whether or not we're going to hit recession. But you have to look at this here. And what's a recession? I think a recession is the way you qualify it is 3 consecutive quarters of either stagnated or receding growth. In other words, shrinkage. So I think it has to hit 3 quarters. Oh, that's what she said.
Yeah.
Anyway, John mentioned here in the comments, Brother John mentioned here, with all the extra buying of food and groceries, many folks are hand to mouth now. No cash left in their accounts and or credit cards is up to the limit. They'll ramp up the pressure. And, and that was something that crossed my mind. It was all these folks going out there spending all this money. And I'll ask you, Bob, because I want to know what you're seeing in Illinois. Because you got these people going out there just buying things, hoarding things up. And yes, they're spending all their money. They're spending all their credit. And for what?
But Ed, sorry, man. I gotta interrupt with this.
No, please do.
The things that they're buying out here, it's ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, the things that they're getting. You go to like a Jewel, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get like bread or some shit.
Yeah.
There's no bread. Now, I'm not a chef, okay? Me cooking is like and putting it waffle in the microwave. So, but I
Don't nobody mess with Bob's ego. Let go of his ego.
yeah, wait, don't Lego my ego. Anyway.
You dirty bastard, you.
Anyway, isn't there an expiration date on bread?
Bread generally tends to go bad after a week or two, yeah.
So, okay, and then you go a little more down the aisle, and you go to the butcher part of the store.
Mm-hmm.
There's no meat. I mean, believe it or not, there's shitty meat from all the pictures I see.
Right. The chicken feet, the cow tail, cow tongue, right.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess you could freeze that and it would last a little longer. But people are acting like you said, a doomsday prepper. I'm waiting for Rick Grimes to walk down the street and be like, "Let me in."
And you know what, Bob? And I'm actually very glad that you brought up the whole subject of prepping. I am absolutely I can't thank you enough for bringing that up because I would like to transition into that.
Okay. Hey, all right. Cool.
Because go ahead.
Sorry. I mean, what people should prep, okay, Ed, but to the degrees they are prepping, it's ridiculous.
Let me ask you.
If the verdict comes down tomorrow that says you got to stay home from work for, I don't know, 3 weeks, I understand it because money's not coming in like that. So, sure, prep as much as you can. But the way they're doing it, they act like they're going to not see the outside in, 7 months.
Okay. Now let me ask you this: what's your version? What do you perceive as a prepper?
Somebody that what do you mean, like food wise, or like prepper, like a general prepper?
A prepper. What do you see? What's your view of what a prepper is?
Okay, so like how I envision it. A prepper, in my mind, is a person that might even build a room, like in his house, of just filled with canned goods or that food that Jim Baker sells, that instant food, or because who knows what's going to happen.
The fact that you referenced Jim Baker scares the hell out of me. Just letting you know that.
And the only reason I bring that jerk off up is because he got in trouble again with the FBI.
Yeah, he got spanked.
It's another story for another
day.
Yeah,
that's another episode.
That's another episode. But like somebody that overdoes it. Somebody that can go down to a room that's maybe the size of a bat cave and be like,
okay.
I got everything. Okay, perfect example. Remember the movie Blast from the Past?
I do not. I don't think I've seen that one.
With Christopher Walken and Brendan Fraser, they live underground, and Brendan Fraser has to go up and find a wife, and he needs to reach Silverstone.
I don't remember that.
Dude, you're fired.
Well, I don't watch every movie under the sun. I just don't have time for it. I mean, I gotta do grown folk stuff, bro. But go on to your point though.
Anyway, my point is, if people saw that damn movie, that is my version of a prepper.
Okay.
Like living in a bomb shelter just filled with food that will last you maybe for 20 years. That, in my mind, is a prepper.
All right. Let me.
That doesn't need to happen for this particular thing.
Let me help kind of dispel something in general. What a prepper is. I mean, I think there's a lot of misconceptions based on like the TV show of Doomsday Preppers. And to a certain degree, those folks are indeed preppers, but I think they're a little more extreme. By and large, a prepper is just going to be somebody who is ready for a natural disaster or some kind of man-made catastrophe. They're an individual that's going to be able to weather out some type of catastrophe, as I just noted, for anywhere from a month to up to maybe, several months. And they don't just go buying and hoarding things up. What they generally do is they buy things over a period of time: ammunition, weaponry, food, canned goods. They practice various skills like bushcrafting, canning foods. They have a working knowledge of certain flora and fauna. They know what plants you can and can't eat. There's a lot more that comes to it. It's a lot more cerebral than just, I'm going to go raiding other people. You know what I mean?
So that's where people are getting this whole, hey, the world's ending, we have to load up on shit paper. Like,
yes and no.
So people are doing it wrong.
Are you?
Not,
well, I mentioned this earlier, and I don't know if you were here for that. Do you know what social proof is?
No, I wasn't there for that. So
all right.
No, I don't know.
So social proof, do you remember when you were a kid and your parents might have said to you, if everybody jumps off a bridge, are you going to jump off the bridge too? And, of course, you stand there like an idiot looking at your parents, and you'd be like, no.
Well, no, my answer was like, I'd be happy if I can jump anywhere. So, you know.
Oh, right. Okay. Would you roll off the bridge if everyone else rolled off?
No.
But the thing is, though, here's the thing. When social proof is that the reality is that if everybody's jumping off a bridge, guess what you're probably going to do? It's very rare that you're not going to be the one to jump off the bridge with everyone else. So what you're seeing here is you're seeing everybody panic buying. They're buying all the frozen foods. They're buying all this, that, and the other, all the toilet paper, all of the hand sanitizer. And most people are not strong enough to say, fuck that, I'm out. Let me just go pick up some Oreos. That's all I came here for. When I went to Walmart this past Sunday, I saw everybody just going batshit crazy. And what did I go? I bought water. I bought a couple of frozen things. I bought some peanut butter because my son loves peanut butter. And I bought 4 bags of charcoal. Now, I buy charcoal in usually 4-bag increments because I grill all the time. I grill. To grill 2 to 4 times a week is probably my norm. So for me, 4 bags of charcoal will last probably about 3 months, just because that's how often I grill. So for me, this isn't I'm hoarding thing. This is I need to replenish what I'm doing because I don't have time to shop all the time, you know. And economically, for me, that makes financial sense. But like I said, the prepper is the individual that always has enough of stuff to be able to weather these things. And they're skilled in these things when it comes to either, like I said, firearms, working with knives, bushcrafting. Bushcrafting is simply the art of being able to work with ropes, tents, make something out of literally nothing, the things that are around you. You see what I'm saying? And yes, Joe.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Joe. I can grill pinto beans on my grill. I'm not George Jefferson. Not Corona cough.
Oh, listen, I used to cough to cover up my farts, but now I fart to cover up my cough.
Ain't that the damn truth?
So people will get freaked out. but like, here's another thing I don't understand. I mean, there's so many levels in this, and I feel bad because I'm monopolizing the show. But they shut down all these restaurants here, and I don't know if it's everywhere, but they did it here. Shut down every restaurant, every movie theater. I don't know if that's a national thing, but they did it here. Why? Can you tell me why McDonald's drive-thru is still open? Why is curbside for Chili's still operational? If things are shut down on that level, then why are they shut down? If you can still get in your car and get your baby back ribs.
The idea behind that is to try to keep these businesses afloat at least somewhat, because the contact between the public in general is going to be extremely minimal. It is going to be contact between the person at the window and the person in the car. And they want to keep that going as much as possible. Gary just mentioned here that they closed down all the movie theaters, and that's pretty much nationwide. Interesting side note on that. There are a lot. I think it's Universal Studios that are looking to feature new releases now on streaming networks, and they're going to do something like new releases for, I think it is $19.99 for a 48-hour rental. So, I mean, that'll be a hell of a lot cheaper than going to an actual theater.
I was going to bring that up, but I know your show's not the entertainment show. What I was going to mention was they NBC Universal announced that they're putting it on their new Peacock service.
Yes.
So, and the Black Widow, the James Bond and the Black Widow just got pushed back. September,
wasn't it?
The Black Widow was supposed to come out May 1st. There's no date on that.
Mm-hmm.
And now James Bond was supposed to come out like in April.
Right.
So, but now they moved it to like November. So think how that horrible for that business. Daniel Craig is doing all this promotion a few days ago on SNL, doing, Bond stuff. And now they're projected to lose like something like $4 billion, I don't know if it was billion or million, but $4 billion on just promotion, because then they'll have to re-promote the movie around October.
Sure.
Before, So they're even the movie studios are kind of.
But see, Bob, this is what I was talking about when I referred to this earlier on. It is that this is going to change this country on so many different levels. Entertainment will never be the same again. The way we look at sports and movies and gatherings and everything else will never be the same again. They're talking about teleconferencing funerals. I mean, how incredibly fucking insulting is that? I can't even pay last respects. There are individuals that cannot even go see their parents or grandparents in nursing homes.
And I was just going to tell you that I know of somebody that just died, and they were going to bury their father, and they can't do it because they can't get flights out to go bury their father.
See.
So,
I'd have to cut somebody. I'm sorry. If I have a loved one that passed, I'm going to be there. And if I cause a couple more bodies in the process, so be it. I mean, you couldn't stop me. I mean, that's kind of how I roll.
Because I heard that story today, and I was like, and then they go, then they can't even cater for the people that are going to be there because catering is non-existent.
Right
now.
Well, that's another industry. And do you realize how many independent catering businesses there are across America? I mean, these are what they call 1099 employees. And when I call them 1099 employees, basically a 1099 person is an individual who has a business. And let's say catering, for example. Like, let's say I'm a caterer. I can bake and cook and do all this other stuff. I make all these plates and I hire a couple different people. But I'm responsible for my own taxes. So when, let's say, I make, $100 on a particular job, that $100 is not mine. I collect $100, yes, but I also have to withhold a certain percentage of it for taxes. Do you see what I'm saying? And going back to the nursing home thing, Gary mentioned here, his wife can't even see her mother in an independent living facility now, just because of the way they have everything on lockdown.
And it sounds horrible, but in a way that's good, because if somebody goes into the nursing home and has the corona, because I guess people don't know if they have the corona. Like some people aren't aware if they got the symptoms, I guess.
That's true.
I don't know, but somebody can go in there not knowing they have the virus, and they can transmit it to the elderly. So should we stay away from the elderly right now? Oh, yeah.
I get that, but at the same point, you know what? Wrap that some bitch up in a hazmat suit, escort them through, and then let them go over to their loved ones and let them take off a glove and let them put their hands together, even if that's for the last time. I mean, to say it's to me, I think the frustrating thing about and this really hits me in the feels, because for me, it's like, that is not a way that somebody that has lived an entire life with their children and done everything that they've done in their lives, only to be their last fucking days without the contact, physical contact of the people they love. To me, that is inhuman. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even gonna make a joke there because I 100% agree with you. Like the other day, I was kind of an asshole. A nurse came in here to check my mom, do my mom's whatever, like blood pressure and things like that. And here she is, coughing, snotting all over the place. And I say to the lady, "Hey, do you mind washing your hands?"
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me like I was stupid.
Right.
And she got offended. I go, "Well, it is a pandemic, and my mother's already ill, and she doesn't need your snot touching all her arms or anywhere else."
Mm-hmm.
And she had such an attitude. And I'm like, these people are disgusting. So,
Well,
I mean, I get quarantining from the old. That's the only reason I get it. Because
yeah, but what if you're not allowed to have contact with your mother before she passes? And I'm just going to throw it out there like that. You know what I mean? To give her that one last hug. Because of fear that you being there is going to infect somebody else. See, in my mind, I'd be like, well, the hell with everybody else. I need to go hug her. You know what I mean? And I understand that's a bit selfish. I get that.
So here's my line of thinking there. If I know she's on the way out and only has hours to go, I would definitely do what you just said. But if it's just the chance of her getting sick, and she could stay alive
that much longer,
time,
right?
I'm gonna do my best being distant
Mm-hmm.
and maybe being 7 feet from her and talking to her.
Sure.
Which sucks because she can barely talk. Getting her to talk to me while I'm that far away right now to begin with is a task. But I'm actually doing that, believe it or not, saying certain just in case, I'm not saying I have it, but that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing right now. It's like I don't want to be 7 feet from her, but
right.
I got to do what I got to do. So, I mean, that's my trouble.
Well, and I get the whole doing what you have to do. I totally understand that. But at the same time, and I try, oftentimes I try to put myself in the other person's shoes. If I'm in that person knowing that, man, I probably got maybe 48 hours left. And chances are when you got 48 hours left, you don't really have too much lucidity. You're not really there. But in those moments that you are there, I want to see the loved ones around me. I want to see somebody.
But the thing is, which maybe this goes into a different topic that we're not supposed to be on, but like you say, the 48 hours, people aren't really there. But what if they are and they just can't, express or communicate?
Well,
to us on the outside, it looks like something like they don't know what's going on. But maybe they like slipping in a coma or something.
Well, let me throw this at you.
Okay.
So my mother-in-law, a few years back, she passed away from lung cancer, and there were times, and she seemed conscious. She was fully awake and talking and everything else, but she was not acting like her normal self. It wasn't her. It's not, and I'm not saying it was somebody else, but it was.
No, I get what you mean. I'm going through the same thing now.
Right. But at that particular stage, though.
It's not.
Right. At that particular stage, though, the cancer had already metastasized to her brain. and it was already affecting her. But then there were moments where she was all there, and we would tell her certain things about what she had done earlier in the day, and she would not have remembered one bit. And then I remember at one point she fell into, she went to sleep, and it was just, we weren't sure if she was going to come back or anything else. And then she came back, and the family was around her, and she knew that the next time she went to sleep was going to be her last time. And everybody, got to say goodbye. She got to say goodbye to everybody. She tried to stay awake as long as possible, but then she went to sleep. And then she slept and slept and slept for probably another day or two before she finally passed. And the terrible part, in one sense, was that there was so many interactions with her that weren't in her memory. We knew them, but we also knew that wasn't her character. But, the joy is that in that moment of lucidity, that was the last thing that was in her mind. And when you think about this, for those individuals in the nursing homes, this is what you want these people to have. And to restrict them, for this, quote unquote pandemic, it's, like I said, in a lot of ways I'm torn. I get it. But at the same time, I think we're going way overboard to the point where it's almost inhuman. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And maybe that's where I struggle with this whole thing, because I understand it, but I also understand, hey man, businesses, theaters, whatever, nursing homes. I understand why everybody's being quarantined. I understand. I understand it. I understand what the president's trying to do in general, but I don't think that, like I said, some of this stuff is just ridiculous. But I agree with a lot of things you're saying. If that makes sense.
No, keep going, man.
Okay, I thought you were going to jump in there. But, yeah, like the nursing home, I get what you mean. That's a very sad thing. I think the biggest thing is going to take damage will be, and this is going to sound racist, but I don't care.
Go ahead.
Chinese restaurants.
Yeah,
how are those doing? Nobody's going to want to. I'm a big Chinese fan. I don't want to have any crab rangoon.
Well, it's interesting because I saw another article here, one of the many that I've got here opened up, is that there are a lot of people don't want to be around Chinese restaurants, any kind of Asian type of restaurant, any type of Asian restaurant. And that's something I think a lot of people are missing because, around the country, in a lot of your bigger cities, you're going to find a lot of Asian stores. And they're not necessarily Chinese run either. They're Korean. They're Filipino. And
But here's the problem with that, Ed. And maybe because I'm simple like this a little bit.
Sure.
Either you're Korean, Japanese, Chinese, they all look the same. Okay. Maybe there's a little bit of difference in the eyeball, but in somebody that really doesn't know what a Korean next to a Chinese, next to a Japanese person looks like, to me, you're all like very, very similar.
But at the same time, all you white folks look the same.
Well, I'm aware.
All black folks look alike. All of us beaners look alike. And that's and it's and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, and at least you admit that you understand, because there's certain things that you don't know, and unfortunately, and I don't think this is racist or bigoted or anything. If you don't have certain exposures to certain cultures and other things like that, you're not gonna pick this up. Like for me, I've lived in Hawaii, so I can tell you, within 3 seconds if somebody's Hawaiian or Filipino. They look, they're very different in appearance. A lot of the physical characteristics are very different, but there's also a lot that they share a lot of similarities. You know, so I mean, there is a way to tell, but you have to have the exposure to these things. So, so I'm not calling you out or anything like that. But for most people, I think they kind of run along the lines that you're talking about. They don't know the difference. And unfortunately, the Asian restaurants are going to take a huge hit for that. I mean, how many times have we, do we make jokes about, Asian restaurants, that, you never see a stray dog or stray cat around. Well, you don't see a stray dog or stray cat around any restaurant for that matter, for the most part. But the jokes are even funnier when you talk about it, an Asian restaurant, right? Yeah. So, it's they are taking a huge, huge hit. In some of these places, they don't get a lot of business to begin with, which again leads to my point. They're family run, they're family staffed. So when these small businesses, right. When you close down these restaurants, this is their only livelihood. And that's it. You know what I mean? So when you close these restaurants down, you are literally firing them. Real quick, Joe just mentioned here, Brother Joe Lozano here, the Repo Man. He mentioned the UAW announced partial shutdowns at the big three automakers, Chevy, Ford, and what's number 3 now? They keep changing, Daimler, Chrysler.
Chrysler, right?
Yep.
Or is it Dodge?
Daimler, Chrysler.
No, Dodge is, yeah. I mean, to this day, I get the auto industry is a huge industry in the United States. But was that a good idea?
Well, the bailout back in 09?
Shouldn't one of those things went away?
I agree completely.
I'm not saying every auto company should have went under, but shouldn't one of those companies flounder?
I agree completely. The bailout of the auto industry was probably one of the worst mistakes that Bush and Obama made. Whether they did it, conjointly or whether it was just Obama, I'm not going to assign blame to just one individual, but the bailout of the auto industry I thought was completely erroneous. At that particular time, I was actually working for Saturn. Saturn made phenomenal vehicles, and
are they still around?
Only the parts. That's it. And I'm sure at some point, they're going to stop making those. But the thing was, Saturn made phenomenal vehicles. And they ended up closing the doors when I was working for them. But, and they closed the doors because I forget what the parent company was at that particular point. But they closed the doors because they were trying to, hold back resources and kind of focus more onto their flagship operations. And what was funny was you take a look at, some of the other ones, some of the Korean automakers. And I'll go back to Kia and Hyundai, for example. And I'm a huge, huge fan of Kia. Kias and Toyotas are some of my favorite vehicles. I will not buy a Toyota just because you pay so much more just for the name of Toyota. But Kia, I remember Kia. Let me just finish this one point. When Kias first came out, there was a joke that they needed a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty because they were such crap cars. Kia managed to survive and revitalize itself and create a quality product that was just off the hook. I own 2 Kia Souls, and I swear by them. They are the greatest cars on the fucking planet as far as I'm concerned. Because if you PM your vehicle properly, you'll get 10 years, 200, 300,000 miles out of these bad boys. And they did a lot to step up their game, even through the crisis of 08, 09. If some of these other manufacturers were allowed to just fall off and die, make no mistake about it, somebody else, some John DeLorean type character would have came along, bought up the infrastructure from that failed business, and produced a better car. It's not a matter of reinvent. It's not a matter of creating something new, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just need to improve on the existing idea. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if you could improve on the existing idea, then you could create the value that the former that you've now absorbed was not able to. And whether it's be the bad business practice or a piss poor mindset, whatever, But you're absolutely right. The bailout of the auto industry in America should not have happened, and that contributes to what John had said. The $23 trillion debt we're currently in right now, which, by the way, is unsustainable.
And like I said earlier in the conversation, this history is going to repeat itself now with something else.
Mm-hmm.
You watch.
Yes.
But Bernie, and you know who's going to lead the charge? Bernie Sanders.
Well, tell me more about that.
He's all about, who's going to pay for this? The rich, or
right.
He's like giving things away for free. So I can see him being like, well, during this horrible, horrible pandemic, we should get back to our country, because if we don't, who will?
Right.
I can see him having a whole platform, changing his narrative that he has now from let's give free college to this person or that person.
Oh, he's already doing that.
I can see him saying, let's make America strong by keeping these businesses that were affected during the pandemic.
Gary mentioned old man belongs in an old folks home.
Every time I look at the dude, I think he grabbed his pants. I swear to God. I mean, but...
You know who he reminds me of?
Herman Munster.
Nope.
No, Grandpa Munster.
Nope. Although I can see, I can see the Grandpa Munster reference. Do you ever watch American Dad?
All the time.
He reminds me of Snot's father.
Stan Smith?
Yeah, he reminds me of Snot's father.
Oh, Snot.
Yeah. He reminds me of Snot's father.
See, now I feel bad for Gary and for Mike in the chat room, because...
Gary said he used to say Elmer Fudd.
Yeah.
Elmer Fudd was cool. He was a hunter.
He's hunting for... Yeah, he was just hunting for a rabbit. I mean, Gjrb.
Oh, my God.
Put on a dress and fool them every time.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this here. Since you brought up Bernie Sanders. And I love this conversation. I think this is a great conversation here. And I'm going to throw this out here. If I got any preppers out there that are listening at this particular point, we're looking at 9:39 p.m. Central Standard Time. If there are any preppers out there, let me know you want to call in. Bob, yes, I'll put a time limit on you. But, we can always pick it off, the next day. But I want to hear from preppers, too. But... And let me get to this real quick. John just mentioned Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin has reportedly warned that the U.S. could see an unemployment rate of 20% as the coronavirus plunges the economy into recession. 20%. And John's probably, and John, I trust John in what he's saying and his resources. That the scary part about that number, 20%, that's probably not even U6 numbers. There's U6, which is true unemployment, and then there's the unemployment numbers that you hear on the radio and TV and everything else like that. Unemployment of that level is catastrophic. That's depression level unemployment. But let me ask you this here.
Yeah.
So Bernie Sanders, the Democratic left have kind of taken the AOC platform of free this, free that, free everything. But if you've been paying attention... And if you haven't, that's just no hit against you. And when I say you, I say generically.
Okay.
They're talking about now giving every American a paycheck of $1,000 a month because of the coronavirus.
I
with the businesses that are
months ago.
Right. Well, they're talking about doing this within the next 2 weeks. With the businesses that are being forced under the legislation that was passed in the House of Representatives and is being considered in the Senate right now, the coronavirus relief package, I think it's something like $80 billion. They're talking about giving tax incentives to businesses that have less than 500 employees and that are going to have to give pay time off to people. Like, for example, for me, here in Wisconsin, schools are closed. And initially it was supposed to be closed up until April 6th. At this particular point, to my knowledge, what was said is indefinitely. So my son has to stay home or get to a babysitter. So there's an extra additional cost for my family to take care of my son while we go to work. Now, our work, fortunately for myself and Jen, we're fortunate enough where we can work shorter hours and then also remote work. So we can still do certain things. For me personally, in my business, and I don't want to talk too much about what I personally do professionally, but I will tell you that the hospitality industry closing down here in Wisconsin is a huge hit for me. But the store business is going to be a big boon. It is not going to be a wash, but it will certainly mitigate it. And this is where the word mitigate becomes very important. For small businesses that are forced to pay people for taking time off, it's an additional 2 weeks on top of whatever else it is you offer. You're forced to pay these people for that time off. Well, if you're closing your doors and you had already offered them time off, now you have to do an extra 2 weeks. If you don't have additional income, how are you going to pay these people? But what they're saying is that they're going to give tax incentives. They're going to give tax incentives to mitigate these problems. Mitigate does not mean fully compensate. It means to partially help you out. Partially help you out to offset your costs could be anywhere from 1% to 99%. It is not 100%. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but and here's the thing. People would like this idea only because they give you tax incentives. But I look at it as another horrible way to give you another stimulus package.
Yes.
And everybody knows those stimulus packages don't do shit.
Yes, you're absolutely correct.
I think maybe the first one that Obama put out there did, but then I think he put out 2 or 3. I'm not certain on that. The second and third one really didn't do nothing, but people got more greedy with it.
Right.
So if you give somebody $1,000, they're going to say, "Well, what the hell am I supposed to do with this?" Because after a while, $1,000 ain't enough.
Well, take a look.
It will be good at first, but they'll want more, and they'll expect more. That's why this is a bad idea.
Well, take a look. Take a look at the first stimulus package that they released. And we got another call here, but I want to finish this here with you real quick. But take a look at that first stimulus package that came through. A lot of that money went to places, and I think Tesla got a good part of it. And that was probably the only, I'd say, shining star that came out of that. But if you take a look at some of the other stimulus, people, recipients of it, Solyndra, that was a political payoff. Solyndra was this solar farm, wind farm type thing, and these were all big donors to the Obama administration, or to the Obama campaign, I should say. And what was disturbing about that is most of these people that got this stimulus, you had, stimulus 1, stimulus 2, you got the son of stimulus, the return of stimulus, and it didn't do anything other than essentially line people's pockets, so that was just a bad thing altogether. And then you got this idea, and this goes back to the whole giving stuff away. It's this idea that, we're just going to go ahead and give you $1,000 a month because, and caller, I'm going to get to you here in a minute. Trust me. I'll even call you back here momentarily, good sir or ma'am. I don't want to be gender discriminative. But the thing is that once you start giving $1,000 to people, when you start giving stuff away, at what point can you ever take it back? Case in point, welfare.
Once you open that Pandora's box,
yes, sir,
you can't take it back.
Yes,
because
sir.
if you take it back, you know what people say? Well, the government is like an Indian dealer. The government
It's
gave
my
it to me,
benefits.
you know,
Yes. Yes.
exactly. So you can't do that. If you say it's a gift, and then all of a sudden you take it back, you're the big bad. You're not the man. Not to use the 70s term, but the man is bringing you down. The man
Right.
gave you a gift, and the man took it away. Yeah.
Hold on real quick here. Apparently, Mike just mentioned here. Let's see. Did you lose your show?
Oh, damn.
No. I think we should be good there. You guys, if you're still
Sometimes
hearing
that
us, let me know.
happens to me. Sometimes that happens to me where I need to refresh my telephone, or I'll lose signal, and then I refresh it, and then you're right back.
Well, I gotta have
Maybe
certain boosters here in my house. It's not that I have a very large house. It's actually a small house, but I need boosters because I broadcast out of my studio's in my basement. So I mean, when you're in your basement, you have a lot of steel and concrete, and that interferes with a lot of your signal. You know, so that becomes kind of part of the problem.
I mean, in a way, I feel bad that this has become the Ed and Bob show tonight. But I mean, I just
No, not at all, because I think
wanna
you
be-
covered we covered a lot of territory I wanted to cover, and I wanted to get
Okay,
the
good.
perspective of other people, and you know, and if somebody wants to call in, like we got one individual here, you know, obviously, and I'm going to call them back here in just a moment because I want to hear what they have to say, but you know, we covered a lot of this great material. And I'm totally going with this here because we got up to 3 hours to do what we got to do. You know what I mean?
I'm glad I was able to, not knowing what you had on the list, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that I'm able to help cover that, checking off what you needed to do. Because believe it or not, I thought about breaking my lunch promise just so I can podcast about this coronavirus.
I'm sure God would forgive you.
I don't know.
I'm sure God would forgive you.
Because I mean, I was acting like an asshole on the air a few weeks ago, so I doubt it. You know?
Well, let me ask you this. Since you brought that up, I'm just going to ask you this, and you can tell me now or you can tell me later. Did you learn from it?
After our privately,
Mm-hmm.
I sat and I thought about it, like legit thought about it, and I did learn from it. I was even going to call up certain individuals and apologize,
Mm-hmm.
but then I'm like, no, you know,
You prideful prick. Come on.
No, and it wasn't even that I'm mad about it, because I'm not. But I was like, maybe the person will feel uncomfortable if I hit him up on the private line. So I was only like, maybe I'm helping this particular individual out.
Sure.
And when he or she is ready to talk, they'll get a hold of me, and then we'll take it from there. But yeah, I learned from it 100%.
I'm going to tell you this. Let me just throw this in here real quick. Don't be so damn prideful that you can't call an individual and say, listen, man, I know that, you know, there was enough to go around, and I'm going to apologize for my part. Never be that person. You know, when you're wrong, and it's all good. But let's not get too far into that. Let's not delve too far into that craziness.
Okay.
But
Okay.
you know,
But because of our conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it. That you and I can talk about life, and sometimes when my head's up my ass, you can be like, Bob, no, get your head out of your ass, man, and think about this for a second. But yeah, we'll get out of this topic. But I just want to say that was our conversations are pretty good.
Well, and that's why I enjoy having them. So, you know, that's a good thing. So, all right, Bob, listen, man, I'm going to let you go. I want to take our first break here. And then when we come back, I'm going to give the 419 area code the call back, because I really want to hear what you guys got to say. So I'm going to do that here when we come back.
I just want to quickly
Yes.
apologize to the 419 because the 419 is probably like, get this bastard off the air. I apologize, man. So I hope
Bob's
you
throwing out the big
probably have
A.
a better call than I would.
Fair enough. All right, brother. We're going to take our first break here. Bob, thank you very much. If you guys make sure you check him out, that's Bob the Handyman Huber in the Huber Experience. He's right here on Spreaker FM. So we will be right back. All right, guys, welcome back here to Caramel Conservative Podcast. Yes, sir, we are live here on another Tuesday night here. It is, of course, once again, it's St. Patty's Day, March 17th. And ain't that a son bitch? They closed the bars down around the country here in Wisconsin. You know stuff is bad when you're closing the bars in Wisconsin. That's all I'm saying. I mean, there's a few things that we're known for here. It is, let's see here, cows, dairy, cranberries, and booze. It's Wisconsin. I mean, hell, we got, Milwaukee, for God's sake. Yes, Joe, parachute pants. That's right. Break them out there, MC Hammer. Yeah. Guys, make sure you guys check that out. You know what? I'm just going to do this here. Got that audio level there. I hope you can guys hear me at the same time. Yes, I want to get my speaker shout outs because I haven't done that in quite some time. So guys, we obviously had Bob the Handyman Huber on here. So make sure you guys check him out in the Huber Experience. You guys want to make sure you check him out. Guys got some crazy stuff here. He's taking a little bit of a break. It's a Lent break. So he's doing his thing there and he's just trying to keep above board. So it's all good. And I want you guys to make sure you check this man out. I want you to check out Brother Mike Myers and the Radio Host Show. You want to check him out every single morning. It's Monday through Sunday. That's 7 days a week, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, except when he's taking his wife out and blaming the coronavirus for whatever it is that he wants to blame. But just remember, Mike, it's a joke, not a but anyway, and Mike knows exactly what I'm talking about. This goes to a conversation we had earlier today. But you guys want to make sure you check it out, though. That's the Mike Myers Show. It's a phenomenal show that's about faith, family, hope, talks about the love of Christ. I mean, just beautiful show. I got to make sure I check it out every morning. I might not comment all the time, but I do make it a point to listen. So make sure you guys check him out. Then I also want you to check out Brother Gary Russell. Brother Gary Russell from GJRB Online Network. You want to make sure you check him out because he has some phenomenal programming. I mean, several different podcasts, but one of my favorite ones that he puts out is something called the Saturday Extra. He runs a 3-hour show called Saturday Extra. It goes over all kinds of topics. He's got Weather on the Fives. He's got all this other good stuff there, various topics. I'm hoping this weekend I can be a guest on his show because I know he's going to be putting something out there. I'm really excited about that. I make it a point, especially when I'm grilling out on a Saturday, to get me to listen on that. So make sure you check him out. That is Brother Gary Russell on the GJRB Online Network. And then this man, I tell you what, I cannot say enough about him. That's Brother John from OBFSU. This man is absolutely incredible. His intellect, unmatched. His knowledge, incredible. His presentation, phenomenal. This man is what I call the political phalanx of the podcasting world. So you want to check him out. And, and that's OBFSU. That stands for Our Big Fat Soft Underbelly, and the belly's blast, light will shine. You guys got to check him out, man, because you know what he does? He takes a topic, he breaks it down, and he does it anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes, and he does it in such a way that you can't help but be informed, to be motivated, to be invigorated, and to become knowledgeable. So what I want you to do is you want to check that man out. I want you to also check out my folks out there in Beantown, Massachusetts. That's the Wicked Pistol Show. You want to make sure you check out Bumper, Byron, and Patty Cakes as they put on their show whenever they have the availability. Make sure you check these folks out. I tell you, man, there's over 500,000 podcasts out there, and there are some phenomenal ones, and I hope I gave you guys some good suggestions to check out. So make sure you check out these podcasts when we get, and we are in the process of working on the new website. It is Plus Ultra Media. Make sure you check it out. Friends of the Show is coming up on there, and you're going to see all that good stuff, all the links, all the social medias, everything on there, how you can get a hold of these folks, when you can listen to these folks, checking out the past episodes. This is all the stuff you want to do, and please, whatever you guys do, make sure that you listen. Give them a like. Smash that like button. Don't just give it a like. Smash that like button and share that episodes out, because I got to tell you, that's something that's going to help out when it comes to the YouTube algorithms, the speaker algorithms, and everything else for that matter. God, it's probably been several months since I've done the shout out, so I kind of had to do it. It's been a moment. It's been a moment. And guys, you guys don't have to thank me, man. I tell you, man, I get the opportunity and the privilege to get such phenomenal content from each one of you. And it gives me something to live up to. It gives me something to strive for. It gives me something to try to be better at. So I cannot help but thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I mean, seriously, you guys you do such a phenomenal job. It makes me want to raise the bar that much higher. So with that all being said, let's pull this bad boy up here And let's see. You would think that during the break I would have been able to like kind of get this stuff together, but no. Yeah, one of these days I would have, kind of sort of got my stuff together. All right. We're going to give the 419 caller a call back. And I should know who it is, but 419-313-414-817. I'm listing off all kinds of area codes. No, I'm going to call that person back, Bob.
Me, Lord Central, can I help you?
Holy shit, did I just hit the Repo Central of Ohio? Some bitch
What's
right
up,
here.
Brother Ed?
We got Brother Joe Lozano, the Repo Man himself, up in this. How's that phone doing, man?
I'm a little echoing, but I can deal with that.
The echo is probably coming from my end because I'm still kind of mastering some of what I'm doing. So I'm hoping I'm adjusting something right now. So hopefully, is the echo still coming in your way?
Yeah.
All right, well, fuck it. There's only so much you can do on the spot. One of the reasons I love doing a live show, by the way, I love doing a live show because I don't mind the errors and everything that come along the way. Like, I don't polish these episodes. I just kind of throw them out there, and it is what it is. And
yes, sir.
You're seeing all of it just raw. And I love that. So, I mean, the more the merrier, throw it on in there. Let me just inform some folks real quick here. So, Joe and I have been, and I'll say it, we've been friends. I know you might not acknowledge it, because of my Puerto Rican side. Damn Mexicans. We've been friends for, God, good, 8-9 years? I mean, we never met in person, but we bonded through an association, and obviously between that and the humor and everything else, I'm definitely I feel honored and privileged to call you my friend, and I think that you send a lot of really good information. You got a lot of great humor. But Joe sent me a lot of pictures. He sent me about 7 or 8 pictures earlier this evening of some of the supermarkets that were just ran through. I mean, it was like locusts through a wheat field. And
it was hit.
It's amazing because this gives us an opportunity to compare and contrast. I'm in Wisconsin, Joe's in Ohio, and I'm sure a lot of folks listening are going to be able to kind of extrapolate and see some of this and compare to what they're seeing across the country. That's your cue there, Mexican. Uh-oh. Did we lose him? You still there, dude? Well, as we're trying to figure this out here real quick, Hubert mentioned, by the way, the coronavirus, believe it or not, affecting me. I was supposed to go out and edit my book, but I didn't want to be around people just in case. All right, Joe, we're going to try to do this here. I'm going to try to call you right back here. I'm going to hang up here, and then we'll try to give it a call. We're going to give it a moment or two. And it's funny because Joe and I, we actually, myself being half Mexican, half Puerto Rican, Joe being Mexican, it's funny because we got so many Mexican jokes that go back and forth. It's just hilarious. And again, it's something I tell folks, you got to laugh at yourself. If you cannot laugh at yourself, what can you laugh at? So let's give Joe another attempt here. We got the ringing.
Yeah, hello.
What's going on with your Nokia?
Oh, my gosh. I was talking to myself and everything. I said, what the hell's going on?
It went dead over here, and I'm like, are you still there, Mexican? And I didn't even hear like, Fejole, arriba, like Tito Santana back in the day. See, you're old enough to remember that. God, I love Tito Santana. I ain't even gonna lie. Tito Santana was like, damn, I too can be an intercontinental champion.
Right?
So how are things going in your part of the world, brother?
Oh my gosh, it's getting pretty nasty over here, with all the people rating stuff from Myers to Save Lots and Walmart. Oh my gosh, I wanted to go ahead and make a jigs dinner for the family and everything. So I said, okay, I'm going to go head down to Myers,
Right.
get a brisket and the other stuff,
Right.
and have it. Oh, okay, well I'll go to Walmart. Went over there, nothing. I mean, their damn shelves were bare as hell.
Right.
So I said, well, shit. So I had to go to the other end of town, to this rink-a-dink mom and pop store and everything. It's called Broadway Foods. So went over there. They had nothing. I said, oh my gosh.
It's amazing.
So I said, you know what? The hell with it. I'm getting steak, got some porterhouse and everything, and that's what we had for dinner. No jigs dinner.
Right. To me, it's absolutely amazing how much people are just going through this. And what I find dangerous about this is for the non-experienced prepper. Like, okay, that's great that you're stocked up on, meats and X, Y, and Z, but do you know what the hell to do with it? What are you going to do with, and I don't know too much about what you've done prior to, 8-9 years ago, but for me personally, having been a military brat and then being in the Marine Corps myself, and then my ex-wife was in the Navy. We've lived I've lived in Puerto Rico, in California, in Hawaii, in Guam. And in all those places, we've had natural disasters, be it earthquake, typhoon, hurricane, tsunami warnings, that type of thing. And in the majority of those cases, especially when like typhoons would hit, we would be without power for an extended period of time. Most of people would have no idea what to do at that point. What's kind of your take on, this mass hoarding and what's essentially amateur hour? It's proper amateur hour.
Basically, that's what it is. Because I've been prepping for, like you said, 9 years. Because I'm with the Frontiersmen,
right?
Which you know about that.
Yes, sir.
So I've been prepping ever since. Canned goods, pasta, of course. Our staple food, rice and beans.
Yep. Well, you speak the language of my people.
So I got all that and everything. So I'm not even worried about the essentials like tomato sauce, tomatoes, stuff like that.
Right.
I have all that. I have water, Gatorade. Pop for the old lady because she loves her Code Red and everything. So I got to go ahead.
Gotta have you Code Red.
Going. But yep. So
was it great drink?
So I don't have to worry about hoarding or anything else like that. So I see these people and say, are these guys just freaking idiots or something? The first day when everything was locking down and everything, went to Myers. I had to go ahead and get a few things. I waited in line for almost 45 minutes. People just piled up in their with their carts with stuff like toilet paper. Just everything. This is bullshit. They should have been doing this for years. But you can't go ahead. I'm preaching to the choir and everything. So,
well, to me you are, but I think to a lot of our listeners you're not, because I was talking with Bob about this. I think a lot of people have a misconception of what a prepper is. I think the Doomsday Prepper show did a huge disservice to the prepper community, because if you take a look at what prepping and being a prepper truly is, it's not about hoarding. It's about taking care of you and yours, your community. It's about, learning new skills. Look at the shit that our forefathers have done, regardless of where they came from and how they were able to and here's a word I can't pronounce for my life of me, sustain themselves for extended periods of time out in the wilderness. And we've lost those skills over years as society has become more quote unquote civil. But look how fast it is for us to degenerate. You said it, wait 45 minutes in line, You know, you're probably one of the lucky ones that didn't get to witness a fight over toilet paper.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Well, over the years, people got lazy.
Yes.
That's how I can go ahead and describe everything. People just lazy. You know, things. I mean, I just can't explain it. It just.
Well, we got soft
it just blows
because
my
everyone got into this, you know, oh, I can just go to the store. You know, I'm sure you've probably seen that meme, you know, now I got to go hunting for my food. I don't even know where Doritos live. You know, and I think, you know, that's more of a tongue-in-cheek meme out there because how many people just assume that this is all going to be there? There's a YouTuber. Go ahead.
The thing is, what people don't understand is, you know, what if the power grid goes down?
Mm-hmm.
You lost everything in your fridge.
Yes,
what are you
sir.
going to do then?
Yes, sir.
You know, what I've learned, which I haven't heard this in a long time, is with eggs.
Yeah.
You can actually go ahead and store eggs for at least a year without a refrigerator.
Right.
And you know, I was telling my wife about it, and she said, "No way." I said, "Well, okay, let's do a little experiment."
Mm-hmm.
So I went off and got a dozen of eggs and everything, dipped them in wax, and I just put them in a cool, dry plate.
Right.
It was a year. Cracked it open. I mean, it was the best egg I ever had in my life.
Really? I would have
And
expected
she
the
was
taste to be diminished a little bit, but no.
No.
So they
Yeah,
didn't
what
pop
it
out
is,
as
with the
chickens or
wax.
anything? They weren't egg seeds? No chicken seeds?
Well, the thing is, with the wax, what that does, it traps everything that's inside that egg.
Yes.
You know, so your the oxygen ain't going inside the egg
Mm-hmm.
because that's what breaks down everything that's in the egg.
Right.
Is the oxygen. So what do? You go ahead and dip it in wax. It stops everything. It's
Right.
like in suspended animation.
Yes.
So I mean, she was amazed. Well, she's a Polish girl from from the Ritchie part of Savannah in Toledo.
So how the hell did you pull her in? How'd you pull her in?
My getting good look.
Oh, shit. It must have been Taco Tuesday. It must have been Taco Tuesday. You probably started dating her when Ricky Martin was popular. Okay, I get it now. Hey, if it makes you feel any better, I was still riding the Ricky Martin train back in like 2010, 2011. So yeah, I get you. I'm with you.
And busting out that Rico Suave.
Oh God. Oh man, that was terrible. I was in Puerto Rico when that came out, and I didn't even want to acknowledge being Puerto Rican. I'm like, I got nothing, man. I'm out.
Oh shoot!
That was oh my God.
But like I said, the only thing I can actually say to the people that's hoarding everything, they're lazy. That's all I gotta say.
Yes. And the thing is, it's interesting to me because I look at the individuals, and I've scaled back quite a bit from a lot of prepping in general. Because one of the things that I kind of got trapped into, and I'm not going to blame the frontiersmen and I want to talk about the frontiersmen here momentarily because I think people need to be a little more aware of this here too. But I'm not going to blame the frontiersmen. I'm not going to blame doomsday preppers or anything else. I kind of got trapped into this trap of not living in the current day and living for some post-apocalyptic era. So I got to the point where I had to scale things back and live for the moment, while at the same time remembering that, from my, and Limbaugh talks about this quite a bit, Rush Limbaugh, wisdom guided by experience. My experience has led me through, great man, bless his heart and his lungs. But having been through a number of natural disasters, prepping was a natural way of life for us. We had shit tons of Spam, lots of water on reserve. We rotated these things out. We got familiar with bonding with our community because when you have a natural disaster, it is incumbent upon you to know your neighbor because you don't know if your neighbor's going to, you need your neighbor to help you. You need to help your neighbor. That's the only way that you're going to get through these things. And in the community, like when I lived on Guam in particular, that was probably the best run community when it came to a natural disaster. Everybody was there for one another. And here, when I come back stateside, it is a completely different world. I mean, it's culture shock because you come back and everybody's just simply out for self. Nobody has no allegiances to anything more than themselves. And once you've kind of gotten accustomed to this idea of taking care of the community, it's disheartening and you lose faith in humanity. So I had to kind of break away from the I'm living for the end of the world to the I'm living for today, but I'm being prepared enough that if I had to be on lockdown for a worst case scenario for a month, I can do that. But I'm not going to be locked down for 6 months because, and I think you pointed this out to a meme earlier. Yeah, you stockpiled all this shit. I'm taking it. I mean, elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, the reason why I can't post it because I'm in Facebook jail.
Don't worry, I'll help you out.
The other means, so you got these people they want to hoard and everything. So what are they going to go ahead and do with their freezer food stuff like that, meat stuff like that?
Right.
They're going to lose that. So
right.
What they're going to do, they're going to go ahead and go elsewhere. Well, they're going to leave their provisions at their residence or whatnot. And if I need something for my family, I'm not going to go ahead and watch them starve. I'm going to go out and go hunting.
Yes, sir.
And people, like I said, they're lazy. They ain't going to know how to fight. I'm not trying to say that I'm this big badass from Toledo and everything that now I'm going to go ahead and just take your shit regardless.
Right.
It's the man. It's just.
Well, I think when an individual is desperate and you got children at home, there's very little you're not gonna do. So if that means robbing a food pantry, you're gonna do it.
But just get the stuff that you actually need, not take everything out because you're going to be some people like me that's going to be hunting themselves because their families they're hungry as well.
Right.
So you just get what you need and leave.
Right. Now, I want to kind of transition a little bit to the frontiersmen, and for a lot of my audience, they're probably not very familiar with the frontiersmen. I know I mentioned them periodically through the past and being completely transparent to the both good and the bad. And to the bad part, I would say that my problem with any type of militia, quasi-militia, is the constant screaming of the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And I think we've talked about this in the past too. My issue there is that, that's great. You're screaming the sky is falling. And at some point you're going to be, vindicated. Yes. But even a broken clock is right twice a day. So you can scream vindication at one point when shit gets sideways, but the rest of the time you kind of got people worked up in a panic. So that's been my critique of militias in general. However, the frontiersmen stand for something very different. Now, if I'm putting you on the spot, please tell me, and we'll figure out another time to talk about that a little later on. But I think this is a great time to kind of talk about what the frontiersmen truly represent, because I think the core cause of what the frontiersmen are is something that a lot of people can learn from.
Exactly. Well, there's three phrases for the frontiersmen that we go by: is God, family, country,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we represent.
Right.
Frontiersmen is like Boy Scouts for adults.
Yes.
We go ahead and we learn from each other. We have FTXs, which is field training exercises.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we go out for like a 3-day, 2-day weekend.
Right.
Not just the men, but it's the family, the
Right.
wives, the girlfriends, the children. We all go ahead and get together. You know, we go ahead and train. We go ahead and teach other people.
Mhm.
But yet, there's a family core that we go ahead and go by that, you know, we got to go ahead and stick together as a family.
Right.
You know, unlike other militias that they go ahead and just train just the men only, which
Right.
we don't believe in.
And for
Because
go ahead.
you know, go ahead.
For the listening audience, what the frontiersmen are, to kind of give a blanket statement, and Joe, please feel free to correct me on this. It is a militia / quasi militia of citizen soldiers. It is individuals like you, me, the folks living in, you know, New Jersey, New York, Arkansas, regardless of race, religion, creed, or color. And there is a Christian foundation to it. And it is the belief that
Correct.
you are trained in firearms, bushcrafting, whatever skill it is that you have to serve your particular unit. A unit is generally referred to as a family unit, but it can extend to your particular community, to what you muster up, to your locale, to your state, however. But it is based on, like Joe said, it is God, it is family, it is country. These are the things that we take care of most. You protect your faith. You protect your family. You protect your country. It is defense of the Constitution. It is rooted in that. It is not the marauder band that you might see on some of these, you know, mainstream medias when they talk about militias. This is something where the entire family is not only encouraged to be a part of, but it's almost a requisite, to the extent that if one person's going to be in, you want the whole family in, because if you don't have buy-in from the family, you don't have buy-in at all. Because how exactly do you be productive in something of this endeavor, to the survival of your own family, much less your community, if you have people working against you? So the frontiersmen kind of come in from a very unique perspective versus, you know, say the 3%ers or the Oath Keepers or the, you know, number of other militias that you might see out there. And I hesitate to use the word militia because I kind of see it as something very different than that. It's almost a hybrid. I mean, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong on any of that.
Well, with the militia, some people, they go ahead and think of the, you know, these backdoor guys. You know, they're
Yes.
armed to the teeth and everything. It's with the frontiersmen, we're not like that.
Right.
You know, what we do, we go ahead and, you know, like you got preppers, you got survivalists,
Mhm.
and you got bushcrafters. Well, we get all the good points from them
Right.
and implement it within the frontiersmen. We go ahead and teach the other families and friends, you know, how to sustain yourself and your family and everything else.
Well, I think that's an interesting perspective because, you know, there's so many things that just want to take it out. And you see all this hyperbole that's on Facebook, you know, that I've seen from some of these other militia type members and stuff. You know, you need to march on this. We need to do this. And I've always been critical of that because it's like, you know, yeah, what are you really going to do? You know, if you can't lock down your own town, and I'll use my town for example, I got like, you know, 2,200, 2,500 people that live in my particular village. I don't even live in a town. I live in a village. But if I can't lock down this town, defend it, what the hell are you going to do in Washington, D.C. or any other place for that matter? You know, and I've always been critical of those folks just simply for that fact. I think what differentiates the frontiersmen in particular is that we're talking about the defense of the individual family unit and the extended family. And what I found always fascinating about it was that you take the family and there's a lot of bonding into it. Even if you haven't met individuals physically, you build friendships, you build true family in an extended sense that, and again, this is to me one of the wondrous parts of the internet, that it has allowed us to be able to reach to people that we would not ordinarily would have met.
Exactly.
Go ahead, please.
Within the frontiersmen, it's not just a regular average people. We have people in the government.
Mm-hmm.
We have people in law enforcement. Some are lawyers, doctors, nurses, and which is good because we go ahead and learn from each other.
Right.
Which is good because let's say something I go ahead and slice my leg. Well, I don't know how to go ahead and suture that up. Well, since we had a nurse at an FTX that showed us how to go ahead and suture your leg or your arm and everything. Well, that's a plus because now I know how to do this. Or if someone else in my troop goes ahead and injures themselves, I know how to take care of them.
Well, you got to understand, Joe's not a doctor, but he does play one on the internet. So just remember that, guys. Gary mentioned on here that
from YouTube.
right. Joe's only a doctor on YouTube, but Gary Russell mentioned here, watch Lassie, Little House on the Prairie, or even Wagon Train people helped each other. In America, everyone's for themselves. That is true to an extent. And I think what's interesting when it comes to the frontiersmen that they're not so much for themselves. I think occasionally you do attract people that do become that, but they get weeded out pretty quick, don't they?
Yes.
So
I'll give you an example. We had a microburst a couple of years ago in Toledo. I mean, I lost my power.
Right.
So I'm thinking, man, I don't have a generator or anything. So I got on my cell phone. I
good
got,
prepping, by the way.
Groups saying that what do you have, or what do you do? What do I need?
Right.
And I said, well, I need I need some power to go ahead and charge my cell phone. I have a little refrigerator so I can go ahead and put some stuff in and everything.
Mm-hmm.
He said, don't worry. 2 hours later, he got a generator. He brought it to my place, which was like 30 miles away.
Right.
They actually helped me, when I needed.
Well,
if I didn't have the frontiersmen, I could have been hungry for at least a week.
Right.
No food, no nothing.
Well, I think that's interesting because it's these bonds that you build with each other, that creates this family unit between everybody that crosses interstate, that is beyond, like I said before, race, religion, creed. And it creates this thing, hey, you're one of us. It almost has a military feel with it without being military, if that makes any sense.
Yep. Okay. Well, you brought it up. We within the frontiersmen, we have all branches of the military that's in the frontiersmen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another good plus because they go ahead and teach us what we don't know.
Right.
So, like I said, it's a family. It's a family core. We go ahead and help out each other.
Right. And it's interesting because and I'm not going to say, I guess, how do I put it? And it's one of those things where, like I said, I don't want to get sucked into something where it's going to get me to a doomsday scenario, but at the same point, it's always good to know people. And I think this is one of the nice things about the frontiersmen because it takes the prepping aspect of everything and it turns it more into a family thing, knowledge thing. And one of the things that I press upon my son every single day, I always ask him, what's the most powerful weapon that you will ever possess in your lifetime? And he's like, at first he was like, I don't know, a gun. I'm like, well, it is powerful. Don't make no mistake about it. But there's another weapon that you possess that's even more, your brain. And the only way that you can make that brain more powerful is to weaponize it. You weaponize your brain through knowledge the same way that my, M&P9 is weaponized through the 9mm round. So the more you know, the more you become weaponized. I mean, hell, you could be the weakest fighter in the world, but if you understand truly the art of war, you could kill somebody without lifting a finger. You can manipulate
exactly.
without having to talk. So there's so many interesting aspects of it. And I think, like I said earlier on, the Doomsday Prepper television show was great because it went along with the Walking Dead and everything else, and it fed into the ratings and all that goodness. But it was a real disservice to the true preppers that were saying, hey, listen, at some point there is going to be a shitstorm coming. And what are you guys going to do? I don't know if you're familiar with a guy on Facebook named Tanae Reynolds. He used to go by the name of Prepper Tanae.
No, doesn't ring a bell.
He's out of the Washington State area. And it's interesting because, his area is the most impacted area when it comes to the coronavirus. And it's interesting because he's posting things about how people are like, damn, I thought you were crazy. But all of a sudden, now all of a sudden you seem rational. And it's fascinating when people look at you as being crazy for doing all this stuff. When I was down in Milwaukee, everyone thought I was crazy. And I was like, okay, well, whatever, man. You do you, I'll do me. And when things go sideways, and they always will, I don't want to hear shit from you. If you were at least willing to entertain me.
Is when I went off and joined the frontiersmen, my family, they kind of looked at me and said, are you fucking crazy? and I'm thinking,
the answer is yes, but...
But the thing is, now they're looking at me now.
Right.
Since everything is going sideways and everything, they're not prepared.
Right.
But I am.
Right.
Now they're thinking, well, shit, I should have listened to Joe a long time ago.
Right. And I think at the very least, and this is where I think once we get out of this, and I have no doubt in my mind we are going to get out of this. But once we get past this, we need to get to the point where people need to buy, I think, for two different reasons. I think one for a prepping sense, because, God forbid there be and I hate this phrase when I hear meteorologists say this. It's a once in a century snowstorm. Dude, we had that last year. Can we stop saying that? I think we need to, but you do need to be prepared when you have that, 7 feet of snow that come in and you got to dig your way out. Well, okay, be ready to be on lockdown for the next, 6 to 7 days. You need to prepare for that. I think you need to also do that because, let's just face it, it makes economic sense. I buy my toilet paper on Amazon.com. When I buy toilet paper, I buy it 96 rolls at a time, $30. Over the weekend, I looked on Amazon. There were secondhand sellers selling it for $150 once Amazon ran out. So don't get taken advantage of by the people that are hoarding it. And if you do happen to be on the short end of the stick, hopefully those bastards get like the two brothers in Tennessee, the ones that had over 17,000 hand sanitizing units, and now they can't sell it anywhere online. That was justice right there.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
You're trying to flip it for like $90 for a $1 bottle. Get the fuck out of here. That type of thing, taking advantage of folks just like that. I might give pause if you did it for $2. You know what? You're going to make 100% profit on it, fine. But now you're talking,
exactly.
thousands of percent? No. Now you're gouging folks that you should be helping. Now, let me ask you this here. What do you see once we get past this? Assuming we survive, of course. Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? What is that? And pray to God it's not an oncoming train.
Well, I can't honestly say that, when we get out of this, you guys were talking about the economy and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking to myself, this is my honest opinion,
Yes.
that the economy is going to crash.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt, because they're going to go ahead and the bailouts on all the companies and everything.
Right.
Where's that money coming from? We all know it's coming from the Fed. They're
Right.
going to go ahead and print it out.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we're going to have to be overwhelmed with that extra money and everything. And it's going to be nasty.
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
I'm thinking that we are going to get out of this.
Right. Let me ask you this, and let's put our tinfoil hats on. I've seen several people post that there's more going on behind the scenes. And in being completely transparent, when I look at the way that this economy is being attacked at this particular point, we went from these extreme highs. And I do believe that the stock market in particular needed an extreme market correction. But a lot of the correction that we're seeing in the stock market is in large part because of the Saudi royal family. There's one of the princes. He's a 31-year-old, and I cannot remember his name to save my life. But this guy put his mother on house arrest. He basically overjumped his older brothers. He is driving down the prices of oil. Where I live, gas is now at $1.68 a gallon. And this is one of the hugest reasons that we're seeing that stock market destabilization. And again, a lot of these companies, they're looking at valuation versus what they truly are valued at, and they're borrowing against that. So once again, I think we're almost running into a quasi 2008, 2009 thing, except it's not housing related, but it's more business related. When we look at all of that together, what's really going on behind the scenes? Because I got to think that there's some shadow players going on here. And I think the coronavirus is just simply a cause behind, to throw out to the forefront for everybody. Like I said, we're putting on our tinfoil hats. Did I lose you there?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
No, for some reason you're breaking up and it's garbled. I'm not sure. I think it's your end.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, barely.
I was going to say, I start talking conspiracy and stuff in tinfoil hats, all of a sudden the signal breaks up. Damn you, carnivore. It's Echelon's fault.
Could be the basement, too.
That's probably the cause of it. But what I was saying, though, and I don't know how much of it you caught, but there's some people that say there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes and the coronavirus is just a cover for it. What's your take?
A couple of days ago, I went off and was reading on something. For some reason, the United States went off and sent 20,000 military troops into Europe.
Yes.
Why?
There it is.
There's something down the pike that we just don't know, and maybe this virus is covering it up.
Well, and I don't know if you caught this, Dan Toth, who, and I guess I'll leave that to you to say who he is if you want to, but he posted a tweet that the president put that we're at war against an invisible enemy, and we are going to win. And then the Irish Prime Minister had said something that, a storm is coming and nothing is going to stop it. So I'm kind of fascinated by this.
We just don't know.
Right. And I've seen a lot of conspiracy out there that's talked about everything from Pizzagate to the Pope to Harvey Weinstein. I mean, everything, and some of it's very far-fetched, like, some orbiting planet, to some of it, okay, I can kind of see it, but I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just
It,
you take this wait and see approach, but it's hour to
we just don't know
hour.
what's going on.
What's that?
We just don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Right. Yeah, and I think the big question is, will it ever come to light?
My honest opinion, I don't think we will until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, it's going to be too late.
Right. Now, the question is that when it's too late, is it going to be in our favor or against us? You know, that's the thing. That's the scary part. Let me jump in the chat room real quick here. So you were mentioned here. So check this out. A buddy from high school just called me. He's a very religious guy, and he says that he believes the coronavirus is biblical, and we're only a few steps away before Christ returns. No, I don't know all about that. So I had to make the conversation short and cut back to the podcast. See, we're important here.
Yes.
I don't know. What do you think of the folks that think that this is a biblical plague?
Well, there is a locust out there in the eastern part of the world that's just tearing things up.
Sure.
And I'm not too sure. I'm a religious person. I'm Catholic, of course.
Right.
But the thing is, how can you how can I actually say it without sounding retarded?
we both of us might be lost on that one.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard no man will know the hour of his coming but the Father, and I'll take the bullet on that. But here's my thing, and I've mentioned this to several people I know that I've mentioned end times, and they've screamed end times ever since Jesus was around. I think it needs to get far, far worse before we're talking about the second return. And I don't think we're even near that.
No, not quite yet. We're still at the beginning stages of, the shit actually hitting the fan.
Right.
so
right. So I just, to me, I got to be a little dismissive about that, but I wouldn't dismiss the idea that, you know what, maybe it's something that God just kind of throwing a spank, It's like, listen here, guys, I said I wasn't going to flood the planet again, but I didn't tell you I wouldn't make y'all sick. You too, for acting like a bunch of assholes. You too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a tough one. Let's see here. Janelle mentioned here that she was responding to Gary, and Gary mentioned here that when they talk UFOs, let me see here. When they talk about UFOs too, when the truth comes out and the powers that be wants to shut us up. And then there's, of course, that there's a theory about, some planet, and I think I mentioned earlier, Planet X, that's somehow going to be within view, and the government's trying to cover that up. Janelle mentioned here that Little House got through some tough times, just as our ancestors. Not sure exactly what this coronavirus is all about. It's intense on how long it's going to stay alive in us. So, like I said, there's so many different ways we can look at this, but I think the most practical way is that we really need to get our act together as a community and with each other.
I agree. I agree 100%.
So
because if we don't do it, we're going to die quick.
Right. And I think to me the biggest part and the saddest and most avoidable thing about all this is the economic damage that's going to be done overall, because I think we're going to lose more lives just from that than we are from the virus itself.
Yeah. Well, what really struck me was when, the schools, they went off and closed down. I said, it's only going to be for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm listening to the news and everything. Well, I don't actually look at the local news. I don't even watch Fox News or any of the media crap, because they're just
They got their
there's
issues.
Fear-mongering.
Right.
Yeah. So I go ahead and listen to OAN, which is, one of the best news network I ever seen in my life.
Agreed.
Which OAN is
One America News.
On that One America News, yes.
Yep.
And I listen to them and everything, and I go ahead and do listen to the local news, just to see what's going on in my area. And so when they went off and said they're going to go ahead and close the schools down, I went, okay, I can understand that.
Right.
And now they're actually saying that they're going to close the schools
Indefinitely
throughout for the full year.
Yes.
I said, what the hell's going on? I've never heard this crap. When we were young, they closed the school down for 1 or 2 days. That's it.
Well, do you remember when we were young and there was like a bad outbreak of the flu? Your parents would throw you outside so that way you could get sick. No, go play with Johnny. Yeah, he's got the measles. Go ahead.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, build that immunity up. Go eat some dirt while you're at it too. And nowadays it's like, oh damn, you really don't want that because you might pop out a third limb or something.
Yeah.
It's
getting crazy.
As crazy as it is, though.
Go ahead and have a level head.
Yeah, but I think as crazy as it is, I think there is a plus side to this. Like, for example, my oldest daughter, my heart breaks for her. This is her graduation year, and I was supposed to fly out to California in May. It's looking very unlikely that I'm going to be able to do that. But at the same time, for those of us with school-age children, this is an opportunity for us to grasp. Because guess what? Common Core can't grab our kids anymore. Liberal indoctrination from the school systems cannot grab our kids anymore. Now
Amen.
The true influence comes from us, the parents. And believe it or not, you actually have to give a damn in order to be a good parent. And I know that sounds crazy, but this is a real opportunity, and we cannot squander this.
Yeah, I can see that your point and everything, but you got these liberal parents that's going to go ahead and teach them just a line of crap.
Right. But you got to think too, though.
Trust me, there's a lot of liberal parents.
Yes, and you're absolutely correct about that. But I think for every liberal out there that's doing what they're doing, there's going to be that many more of us that are doing what they're doing. Because it sounds crazy, but there are a lot more of us in the rural areas than a lot of us even realize. And I've only recently learned this just from what I do professionally. And what's funny is that those of us out here in the middle of nowhere, the skills out here far outshine those of the inner city.
Amen.
And if we allow those things to shine, one of us would be the equivalent of 5 of them. Yeah, and that's what we need to focus on. So,
exactly.
Isn't it just interesting?
What was that?
I say, isn't it just interesting, all this stuff?
Oh, yeah. But these young kids, they're eager to learn. That's a good point right there.
Right. So we just got to have that conversation. We got to be strong about everything and, make sure we take care of ourselves, make sure we take care of our families, and make sure we take care of each other. And that's really what it boils down to.
Exactly.
So.
Well, listen, brother, I'm going to have to go ahead and cut it short. My phone's beeping, which means, the battery's running low, so I got to get on out of here.
No, and I do appreciate that, man. I know it's cutting close to midnight your guys' time, and we're cutting short here on our 3-hour marker. But no, man, I really do appreciate that. And please, 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 whenever we run a show, feel free to call again. His phone died. That's all right. Thank you. That was Brother Joe Lozano from the great state of Ohio. Ohio it is. That's the repo man himself. Guys, I tell you, man, there's a lot of dark stuff that we're dealing with. And if you pay attention to news 24/7 and let yourself get bogged down, you will be inundated. You will be depressed. You will be it'll be frustrating. But one of the things that I want to encourage you guys to do, and this is something that I need to start doing myself personally, get out there with your communities. I'm in the community always, but I'm going to step up my efforts. And I want to encourage you guys to do the same. Get to know your neighbors, get out there and try to help out. Yeah, I know. No gatherings of more than 10 people. I get that. Wash your hands, scrub your ass, do all that other stuff that you should be doing already. But make sure that you're taking care of yourself. That's the number one priority right there. Take care of yourself, because if you do not take care of yourself, you are no good to anybody else. If you're sick, get your medical attention. Get yourself taken care of. If you find somebody in need, help them out. Pay it forward. I cannot stress that enough. We talk about this all the time on this show. Go out there and become the best version of yourself you can be. These are dark days. I make no bones about that. And it's not simply because of the virus, it's because of the panic and the hysteria that is out here. But you know what? We have the opportunity. We have the chance to go out and truly become the best version of ourselves, because you know what? You can become a hero in your family, in your community, in the places of work that you're at. Be the guiding light that steers the ship clear of the shore. So guys, keep that in mind, and like I said, pay it forward, because you never know when you're going to need that help yourself. So, programming note, there's going to be more shows this week. God knows, with all the business goes down, I'm going to have the time to do it. Various times, various things, live call-ins. I'll try to put preemptive stuff out as much as I can, but they'll be out there. So guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that other good stuff. And until next week, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, I will see you then. Take care of yourself, each other. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And I am out.
We hope you enjoyed this afternoon's rebroadcast of Tuesday night's Caramel Conservative program. And don't forget to tune in to Ed Delgado, the Caramel Conservative, right here on GJR on Spreaker and on GJRB Online Network Tuesday nights, along with Ed Delgado's live stream right here on Spreaker, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Daylight Time. It's 8 o'clock p.m., 6 o'clock Pacific, and 9 o'clock Eastern on the GJRB Online Network. The Gary Rustin program Saturday Extra is next, right after we do a commentary from our big, fat, soft underbelly. Next on GJRB.
Good evening, Houston, USA. Good morning, London, England. Good afternoon, Brisbane, Australia. G'day, world. Here we go. Topic: high-speed rail daylight robbery. Now, once again, the high-salaried bureaucrats and the corrupt, conniving politicians are full speed into pulling another fast one with regards to the California high-speed rail boondoggle. Last Wednesday's release of the High-Speed Rail Authority's draft version of their 2020 business plan is another absolute insult to the intelligence and to the integrity of California taxpayers. As usual, This communist scheme of connived corruption continues, devoid of intelligence and integrity. Californians, you have a 2-month window in which to make public comment before these bought and paid for rail authority directors adopt their newly revised final plan. Another revised plan. And don't be fooled. People, don't be fooled by the recent publicity and news surrounding a rather insignificant $1 billion increase in the cost of this failed fast fiasco. The truth is that these deceitful, scheming thugs want to extend the line 119 miles to 171 miles, another 52 miles, so that they can now go from Merced to downtown Bakersfield. And get this, the additional cost is $4.8 billion, another $4.8 billion, which includes $700 million to buy their first electric trains. But not just a $1 billion increase, it's a $4.8 billion increase. And the $700 million to buy their first electric trains, that is a crock of unmitigated skullduggery. It has already been decided that they will start this train service using slower trains, using the 8 new diesel trains they had in the previous plan. They're going to run these 8 diesel trains until the electric trains supposedly begin operating in 8 years' time. Now, as with everything surrounding this shell game of now you see it, now you don't, these criminals are seeking funds that they will divert and use in other sectors of their shameful, scandalous scam of expenditure which is out of control. This massive house of cards is propped up by falsehoods, fictional fantasy and expensive glossy marketing PR pictures of beautiful rail stations and pristine high-speed trains. When in actual fact, the construction designs have been changed to cater for the slower diesel trains. The original plan of a high-speed rail system between Los Angeles and San Francisco is a total and utter scam, just tossing hard-earned taxpayers' monies and misappropriated state and federal funding into a slush fund of sheer stupidity. This slow train fiasco merely duplicates the existing Amtrak operation. And on top of that, the immeasurable emotional costs on residential, commercial and rural property owners has been incredible. The courts are backed up with eminent domain cases. Errors in construction work has meant that bridges had to be ripped down again and rebuilt. Concrete pylons to support the overhead line have already shifted out of alignment due to the unstable ground. Contractors have gone broke waiting for their payments. International tunnel experts have walked away from being associated with or even attempting to find solutions as to how to exit the valley in the south and in the north, where the San Andreas Fault at the Grapevine and the Pacheco Pass both need tunnels. Normal business-like due diligence was never done on this pie-in-the-sky scam, because if it had been done, this Jerry Brown scam of commie corruption would never have even started. But these high-paid bureaucrats, who are all covering their own backsides and those of the criminal politicians, just pulled another card out of the pack. Apparently the project always had a backup plan. Now that fact there is supposed to cool and calm the California taxpayers. However, this euphemism that's associated with any government doublespeak is really acknowledging the failure of the high-speed rail project by allowing Amtrak to use the high-speed track to operate conventional diesel trains, and that's their backup plan. That's their backup plan. The Amtrak system merely shuttles folk at low fares between Bakersfield, Wasco, Corcoran, Hanford, Fresno, Madeira and Merced. That's far more stations than was ever planned in the high-speed system. And of course, we have Brian Kelly, the chief executive of the High-Speed Rail Authority, falling back on the original $9 billion bond that was approved by voters in 2008 just to start the first leg. Now this CEO, this Brian Kelly, he conveniently quotes this in such a way as to almost convince you that the public has actually approved all subsequent actions of the authority, when nothing is further from the truth. California State has actually violated the terms of Proposition 1A bond that was approved in 2008, and yet CEO Kelly quotes this bond approval as if they have this all clear to carry on here ad infinitum. They've jackbooted their way across and down the Central Valley floor with regards to property owners. The authority continues to pluck ridership numbers out of their butts. They lie, they cheat, and they falsify. There's no private enterprise funding for the project, even though they used it in their initial proposals. Theirs is a continual stream of politically correct, political speak, nebulous terms to bluff and BS the average Joe blogs into thinking that wonders are before them. Well, California, you have got a 2-month public window to comment on the High-Speed Rail Authority's revised plan for 2020. Get energized. Get up, guys. Get up. Get fired up and get in the faces of these commie felons who are blatantly misappropriating public monies. Outright physical negligence by both bureaucrats and elected officials. This project must be stopped. Stopped, not modified. Stopped. It cannot proceed. Due diligence says so. Normal, common sense businessman due diligence says so. This is totally and utterly impractical from a logistical and financial viewpoint. God bless you, God bless your families, and God bless the USA.
I will support and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Today,
imagine one day tuning around on your internet radio only to find a station playing old radio programs complete with commercials and thinking, what am I tuning into? The past? You might be, or it's just GJRB Online and Radioland. A day of nothing but classic radio shows back to back with classic commercials in between. Like the days of radio. Almost like your computer is picking up signals through time. Closer than you'll ever get to time travel. Radioland. Good afternoon. Gary J. Rustin here on GJRB Online, and we're going to be broadcasting live for the Gary Rustin program Saturday Extra at 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time here on Spreaker on the GJRB Online Network. Right now on the GJRB Online Network, we're bringing you the Caramel Conservative with Ed Delgado now on the air live, followed by OBFSU, and right after that, it's the Gary Rustin program Saturday Extra. Ben Osman will be joining us on the program today talking about the coronavirus, and we'll be talking a lot about that, so I hope you'll stay with me. That's a live show coming up this afternoon on GJRB Online on Spreaker over on the GJRB Online Network side. Some live programming, and we're going to have a great afternoon of great talk radio. So join me live, 3 o'clock Central. It's coming up in just about an hour and 45 minutes from now. So join me then. We're going to have a great program. And once again, join me live, 3 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern on the GJRB Online Network. I'm Gary J. Russin. Hope you'll tune in. Until then, have a great day. This is the GJRB Online Network.